Okay, very good. So Mary Wolf and Jackie have requested some public comment. I'll leave it up to you two, and who wants to speak first.
I'll let Jackie speak first.
You want me to go? Okay.
Yeah. Because I have one thing to say.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, there aren't that many people on the meeting, but hopefully everyone has seen all the postings. We will have a van coming from Pine Hill School down to Butler Street, starting at 8:30, that will run till 2 p.m. If you get there early enough, there should be parking at the garage, but all the overflow parking will be at Pine Hill. And again, there will be a van to run people back and forth if you feel that you cannot walk. Also, there will be 4 check-ins. We just ask everyone to please come as early as possible. We'll be checking in as early as 9 o'clock, possibly earlier than that. We will be voting by electronic clicker, so everyone will get a clicker in addition to paper ballots, just in case, heaven forbid, the clickers fail. But we anticipate that that's not going to be a problem. So just be prepared for possibly standing room only. Look for the weather report. It looks like now that the rain will hopefully hold off until after the town meeting. But if anybody has any questions, please call the office. That's it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
And I would just like to add to that town meeting will begin at 10 o'clock. That I need to start then. Some people will have arrived as early as 9 and checked in, and we have a full agenda to cover, and we don't want to be sitting there longer than we have to for all kinds of obvious reasons. And so the meeting will begin at 10 o'clock or within a couple of minutes thereof after. So please get there early. Jackie has done a terrific job getting ready for this to accommodate people, and we're going to move ahead.
I forgot one thing. Please wear your mask.
Right.
Everybody wear your mask, please.
Sorry, thank you very much.
For help.
And based on some of the early polls and based on some of the chatter on social media, it appears like it'll be a well-attended town meeting, which I think is great. Public involvement is always a good thing, and it's always an opportunity to get more involved. You know, I jokingly talk about we lowered the quorum to 20. Seems like silly now, but you know what? I'm very pleased with the amount of excitement and interest in this town meeting. All right. Without any further ado, move on to agenda number 1, the consent agenda. Any motions or discussion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the one change of adding the police chief search committee on item 4 to 6/10/21.
Eric?
Yes, Paul. Go ahead.
There's a set of minutes there with a comment by me that is a mistake. That's why I want to correct that before we vote.
Okay. Do you want to say what it is, or?
Yes. So there's a set of minutes. We're talking about Leland Farms, and I said that the town had built the project. When I saw the minutes, I realized I was mistaken. The town did not build the project. The project was built by the Sherborn Community Housing Corporation. So I wanted to correct the statement that I had made at that meeting.
Okay. Is there any objection to that?
The minutes correctly reflect what I said. It's just what I said was not correct.
That's okay legally, right? You can do that. I just want to make sure. Okay. Okay. Is there any objection to that correction? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion relative to?
Maybe they can take orders after 7.
I would make the same motion. I vote to approve the consent agenda with the modification to the minutes under bullet number 2 that Paul just described, and with the modification that George mentioned, the police chief search to be June 10th, 21.
Okay, very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Now, okay. Now, we had a good discussion there. We technically have 3 minutes before the hearing. I know we cannot hold hearings early. You can hold them later, but you cannot hold them earlier. If there's any other discussion relative, I don't know, probably not worth advancing up one of the other agenda items. I'm saying a discussion about town meeting as we enter that. I know it's not, we can't really discuss it. Just be trying to kill 90 seconds here. Any other
Well, we didn't mention it. I would just tell people for the town meeting also that many people will have to park at Pine Hill. So to be prepared that you may have to walk from Pine Hill School to the Butler Street Garage.
That's right. We are going to ask that people, especially those able to walk, park at Pine Hill. Right now, we're certainly going to have some limited parking at DPW, certainly letting people who are impaired or with handicap plates and so on like that. But, myself and anyone going to ask we don't park actually on site at DPW. That's very good. Like I said, it's going to be very well attended town meeting. It's going to, we're going to have quite healthy police presence just to coordinate pedestrians. Pedestrians are a priority, and vehicles as well. So I just hope it all works out smoothly. All right. Is there?
We have, we're at 28 people right now.
All right. This is where in my final 20 seconds, I'll say town meeting is going to be a real turf war. All right, I have as close enough. All right, so with that, I'll actually open the hearing for the liquor license as advertised and duly noticed at 7:15. As previously read, Arthur, I apologize if I get this wrong, Nigerian for Art Specialties has applied for a new wine and malt liquor license at 11 South Main Street. That's just what we essentially call a beer and wine license. So it's not a full, but beer and wine license. This owner has 2 other stores in Belmont and Maynard. He's experienced at retail. He has included pictures of his stores, an email explaining the operations as in the background material. Jeannie, I guess at this point, I hand it over to you.
I don't know what else to add. Arthur, he approached the town about 6 weeks ago. He's talked to the planning board. I believe he's talked to Board of Health. We advertised in the paper. All the abutters were notified. I haven't gotten any feedback. The police, please, don't take this personally, but I asked him to check if there were any complaints in Belmont and Maynard, and there were none. So you can ask questions, but everything so far has been done the way it needs to be done.
All right, any discussion amongst the board? Right.
Well, Eric, shouldn't we hear from the applicant?
Yeah, does the applicant, I see. Do you want to make a statement?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Arthur Nigerian. I'm the owner of Art Specialties. I do have a store in Belmont and Maynard. I've been in Belmont about 6 years, and I opened up the second one in Maynard, and I've been in Maynard about 4 years. So what I do is mostly we do have a lot of specialty items, like a lot of olive oils, a lot of vinegars, cheese, charcuteries, and we wanted to be like a small grocery store, neighborhood store that if you need something and you need it quick, you can stop in and buy it from us. And I seem to build a store like cozy place that everyone can come in. We know all our customers by name. They know us. We know their families, and that's been great for me. And when I drove through Sherborn and I saw that same vibe that came from Sherborn, I decided to look into the properties, and 11 South Main Street came aboard. It looked like perfect fit, and I thought to pursue with it.
Very good. So let me ask you a question, just at least for the purpose of the public to know. What date do you plan on starting your business there?
So the building itself looks really good. So it all depends of the AB from the state when we get back approval, but within 3 months
Okay.
projected.
Okay. I guess
So,
I'll
Eric,
start. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
could you ask him to tell the voters where it's going, the citizens, where the establishment is located?
Yeah, I mean, feel free. I'm going to take questions amongst the board. So if the board has any questions for the applicant, I guess if you could answer Paul's question.
Yes, you
Okay.
did.
So he asked where it's located.
Yeah.
Correct.
Could you describe it?
It shows on a butter's information, exact address, and a map.
It's
Paul, it's at 11 South Main.
Yes,
where the old sandwich shop was, right?
And now is
Is
the
it-
bike shop.
Where the bike shop is.
Yes, I had read that in the paperwork. I'm just saying this is a public hearing. Public needs to know. So I was trying to get you to talk more so the public had more information than we have that information about where you're located. And what are your hours of operation?
So the hours will be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And
what's your
how many days a week?
7 days a week. And then if Sherborn permits, like some towns, they allow Sundays to open up from 10 to, like in Belmont, I'm open from 10 to 10. In Maynard, I'm open from 12 to 8. And it's whatever town the license allows to. And also, I just want to mention that I'm not focusing on a lot wine and beer. It's just a part of to accompany the product that I sell. So I do have 50-50, 50% of food and 50% of wine and beer. And I want to keep that because, and stuff that I bring, like if you want like some interesting wine that you cannot find in the larger stores, big stores, you know, some curated items, I always bring it. And that applies to food and that applies to wine and beer as well. I'm not just focusing just wine and beer. It's everything. We're part of like a food item. You come in, you have a party, you get your cheese, you get your crackers, you know, and you get your wine and you go home.
George, you got a question?
Yes. Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say I'm fully in support of this. I think we have a lot of vacancies in retail spaces in Sherborn, and somebody who's wanting to open a business in town that I think will enhance our downtown. This is fantastic. I really applaud the package that you put together. I feel like you've got everything in line, and I think it's great that somebody else wants to open another business in Sherborn.
Good. Jeff, you want to make a comment?
No, I just agree with George, and we don't have a grocery store, which we've talked about. So having that sort of gourmet items for people would be really nice last minute things people can grab. So thank you for your support of the town.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it so much.
Very good. Okay.
If
Any
you,
other comments? Oh, sorry.
if you do approve it, you have to sign just similar to the other ones. You just have to come in and sign it.
Absolutely.
Or give David permission to sign it.
Okay. At this point,
So
though,
it's
I'd
a
like.
public hearing.
Yeah. So at this point, I'd like to see if there's any comments from the public. As I've said before, I ask that you use the raise hand feature on your Zoom software. If you try raising a physical hand, I hope someone will see you. But right now, because I'm already on 2 pages of staff. So, are there any comments from the general public? Okay. Seeing none. Bad discussion back to the board. Is there a motion or just further discussion with the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license as presented.
Moved by Joy. Is that seconded by you, Paul?
Well, yes, I was going to do discussion at some point. So
Nope.
second the motion.
You can second the motion, but we can still have, if you want to have a point of discussion, please feel free.
Yes, I am going to vote yes in favor of this for the reasons already stated, that we have some vacant spaces in the town. We need to encourage businesses to join our community and provide more services to our citizens. Where there's a good record and a good package that he's put together. There's no history that's troubling, and there's no opposition in the hearing process from anyone in the public. I think we should approve it.
Yep, I agree.
Paul, where do we, I have a question. Where do we, he indicated there's different hours in different towns. Where does that get determined? Not now, later on?
No, it is now. It should be part of the motion.
So we don't know what hours are proposed, I don't think, do we?
Only
It's
sound
10,
is
8.
whatever town allows me.
Jeannie, what is it? Do we have a regulation on that with our?
Yeah, I think that the other stores, I think that it was more on Sundays that he was concerned about, because it used to be that they couldn't open until noon. But the state the ABCC passed that the selectmen or the local licensing authority can change that. So he can open at 10.
So he's 10 to 8 on at least 6 days a week. And is it 10 to 5 or 10 to 6 on Sunday?
I believe the other stores are 10 to 6. I don't think it has to be 10 to 6.
Okay. I mean, if the other to be consistent, I believe some stores are open till 9, I believe.
Right.
In
I think
Sherborn.
it's up to you as the local licensing authority.
I agree with Eric. We should be consistent, but if there's no if somebody's open till 9, I don't.
I think the latest they're open is 8 o'clock.
Okay, so I don't see a problem with it being 10 to 8, 7 days a week. I don't. Does that work for you?
That works perfect.
I would add that to my motion then.
I think some places are open till 9.
Pardon me?
So no one's open till 9 in Sherborn?
The Sherborn Wine and Spirits, I believe it was open till 8 o'clock. Now that could have been because Catherine only wanted to be open. If you wanted to do 9, but Arter he's requested 8 o'clock.
Okay, just stating because otherwise, you know, I
Yeah,
bought.
let's just do it as stated
All
by
right.
the applicant.
Maybe he wants to go home.
All right, good enough. So do I have a motion relative to this hearing and this application for a liquor license?
I already made the motion.
Right,
Change
we
it
had
to
a motion
8,
and a
we have a
second already.
second. So now we just.
So no further discussion. I'll take a roll call vote. George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
I am also aye. And Gene, is this one of those things we need each one of our signatures? We can't delegate our signature, so we should probably stop by like tomorrow if we can.
I think if you can stop by, that would be great. I think you can delegate David to sign it. It's up to you.
As a preference amongst the board?
If David can sign it, that would be great.
All right. Do you need a vote on that, Jeannie, or can we just simply say that David can sign it?
I think you can just say David can sign it.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
sign. Okay, good enough. So we have.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Are looking forward to you coming to town.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
All right. So it's 7:26. Next on the agenda is a hearing, which is of course scheduled for 7:45. If there's no objection, I see Dorothy is here. I'd like to maybe move up agenda item number 4. Is there any objection to that amongst the board?
No, but I didn't see Gino, I don't think. I'm looking for him.
I
There he
saw-
is. I see you.
Yeah.
I found you. You're hiding.
I was hiding until our item came up. So you may recall about 2 years ago, I think it was, David had initiated with Jeannie's help an attempt to get charging stations for town hall. And Eversource will install the infrastructure for free. However, that did not include the actual charging station. So we couldn't go forward at that point. Earlier this year, Mass DP came out with a grant program, and there were actually like 3 or 4 different categories. So there was a public access category for a level 2 station, and there was a category for a level 3. The level 2 is kind of like the equivalent of a dryer hookup 220 outlet, and you know, it takes a while to charge. The level 3 is the direct fast charging DC current charging station, and you can get a pretty darn good charge in about 30 minutes with that one. So I applied to both, And a couple of weeks ago, we got notice that we were approved for the level 2 charging station. And that triggers Eversource's role to install the infrastructure. And this was done with the assistance of the charging station vendor, who was in touch with Eversource also. And actually they install for Eversource as well as their own charging stations. So so that's moving forward. We're ready to go to have that level 2 station. In the meantime, just yesterday, I think it was, I got an inquiry from DP about the level 3 station. They wanted a couple of more pieces of information. And what they were looking for was documentation that we had the infrastructure from Eversource. So now we do have that. Well, we have it approved and in process. And the other thing they wanted was a bit more detailed breakdown of the proposal from the vendor for the level 3 station. So I'm hopeful on that one. But regardless of that one, we have the level 2 station and we have the infrastructure going forward. By the way, the value of the Eversource infrastructure, I learned from the installer, is like in excess of 50,000. So,
Yes.
so it's a great benefit to have, and it's capable of either up to 10 of the level 2 stations or 3 of the level 1 stations. So if we will have the one level, I say one station, it's 2 ports. So we'll have one station with 2 ports at a time. We have to, of course, dedicate 2 parking spaces for that. One of the parking spaces has to be van accessible and handicapped accessible, but it's not restricted to handicapped people with a handicap placard. Anybody can use it, but it just also has to be available to handicapped people. So, so that's where we stand. I actually have a layout from Eversource if you want to see how they're planning to install this infrastructure. I can share my screen and show that if you'd like.
Yep, go ahead. You're good to share, Gino.
Okay.
When would we decide, whether we wanted a level 3? Let's say we get that to come through. When would we know? Would you have to make a decision how many level 3 and level 2s?
Well, oh, it would only be levels. There's a humongous difference in cost between level 2 and level 3. The level 3 station is like 50,000. So,
Right.
I don't think we would get more than one of those.
No,
But-
I mean, if we did the Eversource feed, we could only have maybe 1 bay for level 3 charging and maybe 7 for a level 2 or something.
Yes, yeah, it would be something like that.
So when would you configure that?
When I imagine for us we would get by if we get the level 3 at all.
Yeah.
And then we can think about the next steps of what we would pursue after that.
But the Eversource feed would be the same for both.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah, zoom
So-
in one more, I think, if you can.
what's that?
That's good.
Okay. So we're kind of fortunate. We have a perfect spot for it because the pole is right there in front of Town Hall, and it's a grassy area between the pole and the parking space, so we don't have to dig up any pavement. So they would just feed it off that pole in front and put it in the box here, and then the station would go here, and we'd have the 2 parking spaces right there. So we just, it's good timing since we're in the process of finalizing that parking lot, and so we can, easily just set aside the 2 spaces for the charging. Hopefully 3 spaces if we get the level 3, but at least 2.
Mhm.
I think they'll be paving that though before Labor Day, I believe.
And that's okay. It's just, you know, lines on the ground.
Yeah.
And anyway, it also, once there's some paperwork we have to sign, and David has that now. I believe he's sending it to town council for review. But once that's signed, it takes about 8 weeks for final engineering by Eversource. And so this wouldn't be installed until late summer, August, probably at the earliest.
Yep. Okay, that sounds good. So but with the paving, we probably won't want to paint lines until after the paving's done, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Paul, please.
I couldn't see on the screen sharing where it was. You said
Oh.
it's here and it's there. Can you describe it in words?
Yes, it's close, it's on the, if you're standing at Town Hall looking out, it's just to the right of the entrance.
Okay.
We looked at 2 sites. We looked at the left and the right because there are poles on each side. But we determined on the right side was the optimum spot.
Hey, Paul, when we used to have live meetings, it's always where you park. So you're gonna either have to get an electric vehicle or find a new spot.
Oh, this is tough. You're taking my parking space?
Walk from Pine Hill.
Yeah.
So, Gino, and this is excellent information. I'm very pleased and actually proud of Sherborn having a charging station here. Is there anything needed from us? Is there any easements, grants, locations, rights? Do we actually own it? This infrastructure is actually owned by a private company, isn't that correct?
The infrastructure will be owned by Eversource.
Okay. And so there's no, like, we don't need to give them any property rights since they're a utility company. They can come on their own, correct?
I believe so. There might be something about that in the document we need to sign. We need to sign a site host agreement. You know, there's probably something in there about that they can put it on town property.
Okay. The only reason I ask is I do know there's another community which I may be involved with actually installing some of these. And it kind of just occurred to me now that I think they're signing some license agreements with them or something like that. I don't think they're going full easements, but I think there's some kind of, I think the mayor might be signing license agreements, but we can
Okay.
double check of that kind of offline. Let's see. All right. Anything else I guess, from
Well,
you or Dorothy? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, so another reason the location is perfect is it's a high visibility location, and we want to encourage residents to purchase electric vehicles. And Dorothy has set up, I hope you've seen the Sustainable Sherborn website that she developed, and she can mention something about that and how it's promoting lots of things, but including electric vehicles.
Dorothy, do you want to take the stage?
Yes, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Gino, for introducing. So I hope you all got the newsletter. Selectmen are copied on that. I hope you open it up. I see Jeff nodding. So I'm glad you guys took notice of that. I can quickly walk you through the website and
You're gonna share your screen, Dorothea?
yes.
Let me set that up here. Hang on.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're good.
All righty. So let's see if I can do that now. Yes. So share this with you right now. This is part of the website that we currently have developed some actions for Sherborn residents to understand how they can lower their carbon footprint, and there's many actions they can do. I just want to pay or direct your attention towards the electric car information we have set up for our residents to understand more what's going on. So each of these actions basically have a description and highlighted links where people can get more information on where they can shop and how to shop best for an electric car. The steps to take bring you basically to a menu where you can work yourself through to understand more what options you have. And the deep dive usually really puts this all in a bigger context. What are the problems with electric cars? So we talk about range anxiety. We have a link to the EV charging stations in Sherborn. And currently we have a lot of state rebates for electric cars, and people that are riding an electric car in Sherborn right now know about the state incentives, but I've noticed not a whole lot of residents know about them. So this is quickly the information we currently have on the website. I'm planning to do a workshop on electric cars for our residents, and I will promote that heavily so people can know about the electric cars a little bit more and what options they have. I'm planning to reel in a couple more communities around us. Medfield, Weston Sustainability Coordinator is interested in doing this together with me. So currently, just to give you an idea, we do have fairly significant, if you click on the website under resources, and I want to give you a quick understanding what kind of problem we have in our community. It'll give you a breakdown of our greenhouse gas emission in a donut chart. And on your left-hand side, you see all what's in green is basically the contributions from individual transportation to our town-wide greenhouse gas emission inventory. And that's pretty much, almost 50%. So, we do have an issue here because Sherbornites are not, it's not their fault that we don't have public transportation, but people have to wrap their minds around like how they could possibly switch a second car to a hybrid. The car that usually runs to get the groceries, the car that they usually use to pick up the kids from school, a car that is, plugged in a 30 or 50-mile range. And my idea is to educate our residents about that in the next couple of months and bring more people to embrace these really great tax incentives.
Very good. So I have a question, Dorothea.
Yes.
Can we track maybe through excise bills or what's registrations, what percentage of cars in Sherborn are electric?
Yes, we can, Eric. And I did dig my heels into that because I wanted to know how we compare to other communities. So currently, through the state incentives that are coming through the More EV program, we have 54 cars registered in Sherborn that are EVs. That's not a whole lot, but other communities that are usually tied into like a utility like Eversource have comparable numbers. The communities that are tied or with municipal light plants have incentive programs, and these municipal light plants often have incentive programs where they promise or they heavily advertise better energy rates to the residents for electric cars when they are basically charged at night. So what can we do about that? I personally think we need to do more awareness. We want to do an electric car show at some point. And I think there is potential in Sherborn to bring up our riderhood a little bit. What we discussed at the not at the electric committee, at the energy committee, was that we could start kind of like a service for our residents, a service like a 1-800 number where people could call and basically get the basic information and more information about the models out there. That would come at a particular cost. And I don't know if we are ready to basically fund a program to do that. That's something that we will have to discuss with the select board when we do a climate action plan, right? when we think about how we can get residents to switch to cleaner energy and how we want to incentivize that from our side. So these kind of discussions will come up. I just wanted to open your eyes to that.
Eric, can I ask a question?
Yes, George, please go ahead.
The website looks fun, looks great, and I'm happy that you got a grant for this EV station. When we established the position of the sustainability coordinator, we talked a lot about grants. So I haven't heard, I hear more about education than I do about grants. How are we doing on getting some of these grants that we talked about when we established this position and it was going to be covering the cost of this?
Well, besides the EV station, we have a grant to do a feasibility study of a geothermal system at Pine Hill School. We also have a grant application pending under the Green Communities Program for, we have Town Hall, the highway station, and the street lights conversion to LEDs. That's I'm not sure when they'll have an answer on that, but those are the main ones that are out there right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it back to where, you know, we established this position. And I mean, Dorothea just brought up a point of spending more money. When I'm asking, I thought this was supposed to be a 10 times, you know, when this was first touted to us, it was going to be, we're going to get 10 times in grants what it's going to cost us. And to be blunt, and I don't mean to be mean, but we haven't seen that.
Say it again, George, please. You haven't
When we were presented with the idea of a sustainability coordinator, it was promised that there's so many grants out there, this position is going to pay for itself 10 times over. I'm seeing more education and ideas than I am seeing actual returns on grants. So I'm just wondering when that's going to happen.
Well, I think if you want to quantify the grants that the two have written in the last year, I think, Gino, can we do a quick back of the napkin math here? I mean, the Green Communities grant that Gino will get for the geothermal, I think ranges in the, please Gino, help me out.
The geothermal study is about 12,000. The EV grant itself is just the 7,200, but then the Eversource infrastructure is also worth the 50,000, and it sets us up for more stations there. The Green Community application, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was in the range of 70 or 80,000. We don't have that yet, but we're very hopeful on that one. So they're coming. It's just, you know,
I just figured since we had both of you here, I wanted to ask how that was.
Absolutely.
Yes, George, and that's perfectly fine. But I just, if I'm not doing the math wrong here, we're nearing $100,000 of grants, right?
Great.
And that's pretty, in my mind, has reached the goal for the first year, right? At least not even carrying us in the second year. And I want to mention another grant that I have written for 3,500, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but educational grants when it comes to outreach to residents are really hard to get. So I have to look into private foundations that are interested in basically mitigating climate change and all of that, and present kind of creative concepts. And I was successful in that. So we have 3 projects going on at the regional schools and at the elementary school. And you'll see more of that coming up. And it will help us to bring the community. And that's what we all want to do, is basically educate and motivate homeowners to invest in their homes, to get them completely electrified and off the fossil fuels, to really deliver on the climate bill that was recently signed into law, and that is also valid for our community, to reduce 50% of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030.
Okay, I want to jump in here real quick. I guess Dorothy, if you could turn off the share screen, please, so we see the
Absolutely.
general audience.
Sorry
Absolutely.
about that. Yep.
Okay, it is 7:47, and now we are allowed to start the hearing. So 7:45, we are allowed to start hearings a little bit late. We just cannot start early. So with that, is there any maybe quick questions from here within the select board relative to the presentation we saw?
Good. I move approval of the use of the space at the town hall for this charging station.
Which I want to clarify. So you, I guess Gino, you do need our vote for that.
Um,
If not, I don't mind doing it just to be conservative.
yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to have it approved, sure.
Because like I said, there may be, and this might cover it, you may need our authorization for a license for this, just based on my experience elsewhere. So hopefully this
Okay.
approval will actually cover that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yes, you are gonna need paperwork.
That's what I thought. Do I have a second?
Allow
Second.
And sorry, just, Paul, you're having a kind of,
We can't hear you,
have
Paul.
bad reception. Yeah, but I think I got that. Okay, all in favor, George,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Okay,
There he is.
and I as well. Well, thank you both for the good work, and I'm very pleased that we're putting a charging station there. All right. A second to arrange things. Well, further ado, then we are actually we're on agenda item number 3. That is a public hearing for a dangerous dog, public notice, I should say, of a dangerous dog hearing, and this is the public hearing. In your background material, you'll see we have the legal notice, the dog hearing procedures, an email from Luke Tedstone, who serves as our animal control officer, an incident report, a letter from Ashley Stanley of 41 Forest Street, letter of notification to the owners of the dog, Duchess, informing them of the hearing, letters of support for Duchess, an email from Attorney Cohen, attorney from the Allen family, and Diane, I believe we have gotten some recent additional material emailed today. You mind either reading off or listing out what that additional material is?
Yes, we have, Eric. We received today from attorney Jerry Cohen, the Allen position statement. And from attorney Seth Jacobs, attorney for Ms. Stanley, we received some drawings regarding property lines. And it looks like a resume from James Crosby, a certified behaviorist consultant. We also received numerous letters of support for Duchess from the Holmes Family Veterinary Clinic, Dr. John Foreman, Amelia Horton, Gavin and Zoe Mish, Kerry Lombard, Lars Nitt, Gavin and Adrian Hill, Susan Petro, Matthew Haywood, Robert and Mary Wolf, David Sobel, and Krista Elizabeth Mayer in support of Duchess. That's
Okay,
what was
very good.
received
Thank
late
you.
today.
Now, just so
Diane?
people know,
Yes.
Eric, Amanda's trying to, Amanda, our town council.
I'm sorry, Amanda, and I don't see you there on my
Oh.
screen.
Forgive me for interrupting. Also, attorney Seth Jacobs had submitted 2 photographs by email, and also an additional dog bite report that were sent sort of in the afternoon. There's also one email that I forwarded just a few moments ago to Diane and
Okay,
David's attention.
I didn't see them just a minute. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and just so you know, because as I try to run this hearing, again, if people could use the raise hand, like for example, like Seth Jacobs, Kelly Donnery, Jerry Cohen, Amanda's already, despite having your cameras on, you're on my second page for some reason. So I will not be able to see you as I work this wonderful world of Zoom unless you use the raise hand feature there as well. All right. So this, and so everyone knows, it's something that doesn't happen too often, and it's a very serious matter. But it's also very prescribed, and the House goes through. So I'm largely going to be reading off a procedures as set forth by our town council on how to set forward with this. I have met with council earlier today, and what our latitude is and what our actions are, and council is available to us to ask questions throughout this hearing as well. So without any further ado, I'll begin with the opening statement. The Select Board, acting as a hearing authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, is conducting an investigation on a written complaint concerning a dog. The dog is Duchess, and does anyone know Duchess's breed? It says to list it here, and I don't know its breed. Do you know, Diane? or lose?
I just read earlier, right before the meeting, that he's a mixed breed.
Okay, mixed breed Duchess. Is registered to Michael and Heather Allen of 33 Cider Hill. This is a public hearing to determine whether Duchess is a nuisance dog or a dangerous dog. So the following procedures are as follow. The board will hear from the party who has made the complaint, then from anyone else who may wish to speak in support of the complaint. The board will then hear from the dog owner and anyone who wishes to speak on the dog's behalf. Anyone who does wish to speak will be sworn in, and I have a set, I guess, lines here, dialogue for the swearing in. So, any further ado, please raise your virtual hand if you are a party who has made the complainant or anyone wishes to speak on behalf of the complainant. I'll give just a few seconds. I see someone has raised their hand, but I'll give a few minutes for everyone else to chime in there. Okay, Seth Jacobs. Can someone please unmute? And just so you know, I'm asked our hosts to basically force mute people just to kind of cut down the back dialogue and so on like that. But you'll be allowed to speak when when you're identified. Seth Jacobs, are you there?
Yes, how are you? Thank you
Very
for
good.
having us, members of the board.
Now, before you go any further, I actually have to have you read this. So you have to basically repeat the following. You have to say, I state your name, hereby swear that the statements I make today on this matter are the truth. If you could please repeat that.
I, Seth Jacobs, hereby state that the statements I make today are the truth.
You swear that the statements are the truth.
I swear that the statements I make today are the truth.
Okay, very good. Now, please make your statement.
Sure. My name's Seth Jacobs. I'm an attorney who represents Miss Ashley Stanley and her wife, Kelly Dennehy. Kelly is here tonight. Ashley, for the reasons I will explain, is not here. And I'm just going to read a brief statement about what happened. I also have a statement from Miss Stanley if the board would entertain such, and then Miss Dennehy would like to give a brief statement as well, if the board finds that it's appropriate and has the time.
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. So on March 21st, 2021, my client, Miss Stanley, sustained a brutal dog bite to her right hand.
Excuse me a second, Mr. Chair. My hand is up. It's Jeremy Cohen.
Yes, but right now we're taking per this
No.
things. We're allowed to take statements first from the complainant, and then we'll take all statements from complainant.
I understand that, but I want to prevent this from happening because the law requires that you take a sworn statement under oath from the complainant. If the complainant is not here tonight, then we cannot have this hearing.
Okay, I'm going to go to our counsel, Amanda. Please advise.
Mr. Johnson, let's have Ms. Dennehy speak first and then allow her counsel to speak.
But she's, okay. But how are we ever going to get testimony from the complainant?
That comes after this. It's
But
clearly
she's not
called.
here. We were told she's not here. So the very first thing you have to do, right, the hearing authority, is to take testimony under oath from the complainant. So the number one thing that has to be done tonight can't be done.
Mr. Johnson, through you to Mr. Cohen.
Yes, please.
Can we please have Mr. Jacobs explain why the complainant is not here this evening?
Well,
Mr. Jacobs, please.
Sure. Well, the complainants are Miss Stanley and her wife, who have both been affected from this. Okay, so their dog was the one who was attacked, and Miss Dennehy's wife is the one who was hospitalized. So Miss Dennehy is here. I believe she's one of the complainants. Secondly, Miss Stanley cannot be here because she's been advised by a physician not to attend because her mental state, frankly, has been, and I can get into it, has been very, very diminished as a result of this. She's being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder. And for her to go through reliving this is not healthy for her. So her wife is here as a complainant.
Okay. I'm going to do this.
May I be heard briefly, Mr. Chair? Jeremy?
I'm going to do this before I go any further. I'm going to call counsel right now. I'm just going to get some advice from counsel right now. So Amanda, I'm going to call your cell phone.
But please make sure to tell her that the complaint is from Ashley Stanley only, and that if we don't hear from the complainant tonight, as soon as we get to court, this is going to be sent back to you.
No, and that's why we have our counsel here. So the town has their own counsel, and I'm going to seek some legal advice. Okay, thank you very much. After talking to counsel, we are going to proceed with this hearing. If need be, and I have further advice from counsel, we might have to continue the hearing to another date, and we'll make that decision at the time if we need to do that. But we still can hear from testimony right now, and we're still going to do as the procedure set forth. We're going to hear from the complainant or advocates from the complainant, and then from the dog owner. And with that, I'd like to stick to that and keep people speaking who are relative within that process. And at such time, when we discuss amongst the board, we may decide to continue this hearing if necessary, after further advice from counsel. All right. So with that, I'd ask that the counsel for the complainant and anyone else speaking for the complainant make your statements for the record now. And I believe we were hearing from the counsel at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate it. On March 21st of this year, Ms. Stanley sustained a brutal dog bite to her right hand. She lost her thumbnail and shattered the bone in her thumb. And as of right now, has very little use of her right dominant hand, and she's not sure when and how much she will be getting back of that. Since then, she's also been in treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. She cannot attend tonight because of that. Her Portuguese water dog, Tucker, nearly bled to death and had needed many sutures to heal her 3 separate wounds. The dog who caused these acts was a dog Duchess owned by Miss Stanley's backyard neighbors, the Allens, one of 3 dogs that they own. This is the second time in 6 months that one of their dogs has sent a person to the hospital. In October of last year, it was Mrs. Heather Allen, the owner of the dogs, who was taken to Framingham Hospital with a dog bite, apparently from breaking up a fight between her own dogs. Instead of showing contrition and being apologetic like you would expect a neighbor in this town to do, the Allens have gone on what can only be called a crusade to paint Miss Stanley as the one at fault. Within days, the Allens put no trespassing signs facing the Stanley property. They then put on what can only be described as cheap-looking chicken wire fence between their properties. They are claiming that the dog never left the property inside the electric fence, despite a neighbor, and it's noted on the police report, seeing the dog's post-bite on the Mish property, which was next door and also behind the Stanley property. This attack was on the Mish property, which was just feet beyond the property line of the Stanleys, of Miss Stanley's property. She has lived on this property for less than a year, and she understands it. The owner before her also maintained this little bit of land right behind her shed. She was actually cleaning that land, and they also landscape it on the day that this happened. And from further away at the Allen's house, their dogs rushed her dog, who was a very docile dog, and dragged him towards their property. Miss Stanley had to fight off Duchess, somewhat the other dogs as well, in the process of being mauled numerous times before a neighbor, Rick, had to come and break it up. And he's the one who's noted in the police report as seeing the dogs beyond the area of where the electric fence was on the Allen property. So distressed by this, the Miss Stanley and her wife are now erecting a fence around their property at a very, very high cost to themselves. And it's the only way that they can even try to feel safe. They do not want this dog put down. They don't want harm to come to this dog. They would like to see certain measures to take place that will protect the community. They believe the Allens have not taken appropriate responsibility for what happened. They are dog lovers, and they respect that the Allens love their dogs. Again, they don't want harm to come to this dog, but they have been distressed and felt like they had no other choice but to take action tonight because of what happened and how the Allens have treated them since this happened. Again, she may need surgery on her hand. She has very little use of her right dominant hand. She's had to take a leave from work for a while. This has been a very, very traumatic incident. And having them be treated like this subsequently has only caused more harm. And that's my statement. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. I see Kelly Dennehy. Are you an advocate or someone speaking on behalf of the complainant?
I am.
Okay, and you wish to speak now, I'm assuming. Okay.
I do.
We
Okay,
need to, do you swear her in, Eric?
I'm just about to do that now. I was
Oh,
going to
sorry.
repeat after me. Yeah. So just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kelly Dennehy,
Hereby swear that the statements I make today
hereby swear the statements I make today
in this matter are the truth.
in this matter are the truth.
Okay, please make your statement.
I just like to thank the board for allowing me to speak this evening, and I apologize in advance if I'm emotional. The morning of March 21st, my wife, Ashley Stanley, and I woke up to a beautiful spring day. It was the first day that our backyard was fully thawed from the winter snowfall. We looked outside of our guest bedroom window and saw what appeared to have been trash behind our shed. I walked into the kitchen, made coffee, handed Ashley a cup, and she said, "I'm heading outside with Tucker. It looks like there's trash on our property line." For me, this was a normal Sunday. My wife regularly went outside with Tucker to walk and clean the property. After 5 to 10 minutes went by, I had noticed Ashley or Tucker were not walking around the property. I opened the back door and immediately heard Ashley screaming and crying at the top of her lungs. She was shouting, "Help, help, oh my God, please help." In tandem, I heard a high-pitched scream coming from what sounded like Tucker. My heart dropped. I started sprinting as fast as I could and screamed Tucker's name. Tucker started to slowly jog toward me. Ashley was limping, crying, shaking, and her clothes were ripped. Head to toe, she was full of dirt, her shoes off, her hair down, and her hands full of blood. There was blood everywhere. While I was running toward Ashley and Tucker, I saw 3 dogs behind Ashley and a man I now know to be Rick, neighbor and property owner of 43 Forest Street. The dogs appeared to have broken through their electric fence and were located on 29 Cider Hills property. Ashley was screaming and crying and said, "They attacked us. Go get Tucker's leash. He's bleeding. He's going to die." I ran into the house and I grabbed Tucker's leash, sprinted back and fell to my knees. I could smell the raw blood and flesh. I was shaking. As I put on his leash, his coat was full of blood and Tucker shrieked while I put his collar around his neck. Rick asked if we were okay or if we needed any help. As I was getting up, I was about to go and retrieve Ashley's belongings, which were located a few feet off of our property on 29 Cider Hill.
As I was getting up, I heard a female's voice scream, "Don't worry, they're vaccinated." Ashley was crying and said to me, "We have to go. We have to take him to Angel now." We both ran into the house. I grabbed a dish towel, wrapped her hand. Ashley was profusely bleeding from her index finger and thumb. Her thumb looked to be split to the knuckle, and her nail was pulled off. The blood on Tucker's fur appeared to be getting worse. I screamed, "We have to call for help. We have to call 911. In that moment, I was erratic and I felt forced to choose between helping my wife or rushing Tucker to the hospital. At approximately 11:40, I called 911. I shared that my wife and dog were bit by a local dog and asked them to arrive as fast as possible. They asked that I stay put until the first responders arrived. When they arrived, I put Tucker in the back seat of my car. Sergeant Ted Stone asked to evaluate Tucker. Tucker was clearly nervous and pain, shaking in the back seat of the vehicle. Sergeant Ted Stone tried to calm me down before driving. I closed my door, started to approach the backyard to retrieve Ashley's belongings, and saw two women approaching her with her phone, shoes, and glass. I jumped into the car and quickly drove to Angel Urgent Care. During the duration of the car ride, Tucker was panting and crying in a high-pitched screech. He was initially sitting up and started to slowly slide down. He seemed to be losing energy. I was able to see the blood on the back seat. I pulled him to the hospital. Technicians were made aware of my arrival and ran outside to help me get Tucker out of the car. I sat outside Angel for about an hour. During that time, I received a phone call from Ashley that she arrived at the hospital and physicians were evaluating removing a portion of her finger. The vet had said that we got very lucky and that the prominent wound could have, if in another location, could have been fatal. The vet told me that they would have to provide stitches to the 2-inch long, very deep wound and would assess the remainder. She advised me to take several hours to go and to the hospital to be with my wife. Upon arriving at the hospital, Ashley was discharged. She confirmed that her thumb was split half to the knuckle, the nail was torn off, and the bite went down to the bone, which was totally shattered. Additionally, her index finger had approximately seven puncture wounds. She was unable to feel either finger and was not clear if she would require surgery. After numerous doctor and vet visits, it was determined that between Ashley and Tucker, they suffered upwards of 25 puncture wounds. Ashley and I are new to Sherborn. We moved in the height of the pandemic and have been living in Sherborn less than a year. We moved here for the beautiful scenery, outdoor experience, school system, and most importantly, to start a family in a safe community. But this incident has forever impacted our lives. While we are extremely lucky and blessed that the injuries were not worse or fatal, we are now dealing with long-term physical and emotional damage. But now the accusation that somehow we are at fault feels like we're being pushed out of a community that we dreamed of raising a family in. Ashley does not have full use of her dominant hand. She has suffered long-term nerve damage in both her thumb and index finger. While her fingers are mobile, she does not have feeling in either. Ashley cannot easily or independently engage in daily quality of life activities such as eating, bathing, grooming, cooking, or dressing. We are both haunted by the events of that day and cannot sleep or eat and are experiencing extreme anxiety attacks. We have been forced to halt family planning discussions to exclusively focus on physical and emotional recovery. Both Ashley and I have been diagnosed with PTSD. I have severe triggers that such as movement at the property line, unique sense from the attack, the sound of cars pulling into the driveway, and the sound of doors opening. We have both remained out of work with limited engagement, and I'm currently on disability leave of absence, all of which are a result of the events on March 21st. I don't come here today to speak ill of the Allen family or pets. We love the community in which we reside, and we have the utmost respect for our neighbors. Ashley and I are avid dog lovers. We have both had dogs our entire life and do not wish to see any harm to Duchess. However, we're seeking accountability for the events that occurred. While Duchess might not have had previous incident reports, it clearly only takes one incident to yield substantial everlasting damage, and we do not wish this on anyone. Ashley and I are certainly prepared to ensure our long-term safety. This includes installation of a fence that covers the perimeter of our property. We believe that this was necessary given the particularly troubling information that 6 months prior to the Allen's dogs were aggressive toward one another and ultimately resulted in Heather Allen's visit to the ER. As such, I feel strongly that this incident is a community safety issue and not simply isolated. The incident with Duchess could have been occurred to any individual child or dog in Sherborn Trail, in town, or any of the neighboring properties. Ashley and I are now fearful of our immediate surroundings and the property that we live on so much that we're temporarily living in Boston proper. We are hoping for a resolution that'll allow us to begin to focus on our long-term healing and recovery. I thank the town of Sherborn and the select board for providing me the opportunity to speak this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that testimony. And if you could please, if you put down your virtual hand, just so I can gauge who else wants to speak. Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak on behalf of the complainant? Okay, apparently not. So I will now take testimony from the dog owner or anyone who wants to speak on behalf of the dog owner. If you could please raise your virtual hands. I'll give it a few seconds. Okay, I see one. Jeremy Cohen.
Thank you.
Okay, so just at the beginning, if you just, I don't know if you've memorized it or not, but if you could simply say, I state your name.
I'm not going to do that because I'm not a witness. I'm providing a statement. By doing what he did, now Mr. Jacobs can't be her lawyer going forward because he's disqualified himself because he's provided testimony as a witness. So I'm not a witness. I'm my client's lawyer, and I'm here to give the opening statement and then let the testimony come from my clients and other supporters. So,
okay, well, hold on 1 second, because everyone else has been sworn in, and that's what I have under my guidance here. If need be, I'll talk to counsel, but I might have to take you under public comment because we're going to do this. I have a prescribed thing here. We have the complainant and we have the dog owners, and each person who testifies has to be sworn at that point. We then discuss on the board, and I take public comment. So if you're not sworn in, we might have to put that to a public comment on behalf.
well, you're not swearing me in. And the second thing is you didn't give me a chance to ask any questions of the witnesses.
That's not,
that may not be in your packet, but I'm telling you, that's how it's done. So do you want to do it the right way and get to the right decision the right way, or am I going to have to fight every inch to get this done the right way?
Eric, I think we should get our town council involved because I think he's being combative with you, and I think we need to.
I know you're trying to take control.
I would like to actually get through this and hear from people, and this is making it. I think let's get Amanda involved.
Yeah. So Amanda, right now I have here basically a prescribed processes. We basically hear from the complainant, and then we hear from and then represent the complainant. Each is sworn in testimony, and then a dog owner, and so on dog owner. Right now we're hearing from a counsel, which says that is not correct. That apparently he's allowed to counter question during the complainant's statements, and that he does not have to be sworn in himself. Is any part of that true, or should I adhere to the prescribed processes?
You cannot force Mr. Cohen to be sworn in. He can reserve for public comment. Okay. However, the process here in this hearing is that we are receiving comments from the complainant, then from the dog owner. Then there will be an opportunity for the animal control officer to speak, and then there will be an opportunity for questioning and public input. That is our procedure here. This is not a formal cross-examination process, Mr. Cohen. Excuse me, Mr. Johnson. We're going to take this a step at a time this evening.
Okay, so Mr. Cohen, I'll give you a second chance. Do you wish to be sworn in or wait until public comment?
Please don't mistake combative with trying to make sure that my clients are given their due process rights. You've already, so Mr. Morrill, please don't mistake my advocacy in knowing the process for combativeness. I just want to make sure we get to the right way so we don't have to do it again, okay? You can adhere to the, I've never worked with this firm before, clearly, because this is not how it's done, but I want you to get through it tonight. So I'm going to pull back. But I can tell you right now, how do I not?
Can I just say one thing? Yeah. It's from our general bylaws, Mr. Cohen, and it's not that it's made up by our firm or anything like that. This is from the Sherborn's bylaws. This is how we handle dog hearings. So it's not that we're trying to be difficult to you or anything like that. This is just our prescribed law that we have to follow.
And it's what's called in Mass General Laws 140 as well. So and I'm adhering to advice of our counsel, and that is what I'm going to adhere to. If there's an appeal process, and you have certain rights within that, but right now we are going to adhere to the process that I have laid out. So I guess so here's where we stand. If you want to be sworn in, you can be sworn in. and you can make a statement on behalf of the dog owner. If not, you're certainly welcome to speak later on in our hearing process, either on public comment or a chance to respond. But I'm right now going to hear from you or anyone else who wishes to speak on behalf of the dog owner after being sworn in. And
Yeah, I just want to understand one quick thing. If my client's speaking, am I not allowed to ask her questions? In the process?
what you can do is actually in private that you can seek advice. I'll allow the client time to actually call you, and we can mute them, and then come back, and I'll give them that time during their time, during the time that they speak. So if they want to speak right now, be sworn in, they can speak, and she can certainly have you on, or he or she can have you on the phone. I think that's perfectly reasonable. All right,
Okay.
so
I'm not a witness, so I'm not going to be sworn in and disqualified. Thank you.
okay, so I have next up, I have Jim Crosby. Jim Crosby, are you here to speak as the dog owner?
Heather and Michael Allen are the dog owners.
Sorry. Yeah,
okay.
I am not the dog owner. I am a dog behavior, dog attack, and expert witness accepted across the United States in federal, state, and including the state of Massachusetts, and internationally as an expert on dog bites. I am here to render an expert opinion regarding the evidence I have observed. My expert opinions as would apply in court, and that is my function here. I am a retired police lieutenant here in Florida. I have been the chief of 2 animal control agencies and responsible at those agencies for the declaration of dangerous dog designations according to statute. I am further still a certified animal control officer. I have a master's degree in veterinary forensics and finishing my doctoral degree. My specialty is dog bites and especially fatal dog attacks. I have had extensive training in dog behavior and am certified nationally and recognized internationally as an expert on canine aggression and dog behavior. I further, as I said, I'm finishing my master's degree. My specialty is in fatal dog attacks. I've had extensive coursework at the graduate level in veterinary forensics, veterinary pathology, veterinary wound analysis.
I want to take a point of order. We have a point of order from a select board member. Is that you, Paul? Because you're not showing on my screen. Yeah, Paul,
Yes.
please, point of order.
Yes, I didn't hear him being sworn in.
He never got sworn in, and
No,
I thought we were getting a statement.
I understand. I'm allowing, since the benefits of expert, he can state his resume to some degree. I will then make sure that he has not clarified that he's actually testifying on behalf of the dog owner. I'll clarify that, and then actually we'll take a swear in. So you can go, if you don't mind wrapping it up on stating your resume
Certainly.
and establishing yourself as an expert witness,
Certainly.
not as the actual witness, or not as a
Correct.
someone who saw the events.
Correct. I did not see the events. I am testifying as an expert in support of the dog owner and giving a scientifically accurate interpretation of the wounds and the behaviors involved in this. I am fully willing to be sworn if you're ready to.
And I'm confirming you were speaking again on behalf of the dog owner. Okay.
Yes, I am. That's who has asked me for an expert opinion.
Okay. So repeat after me. I state your name.
I, James W. Crosby,
hereby swear that the statements I make today
hereby swear that the statements I make today
in this matter are the truth.
In this matter are the truth.
And now please make your statement.
I have reviewed the records of the attack or the dog bite that occurred on March the 21st to a Ms. Ashley Stanley and to her dog Tucker, who is a Portuguese water dog. The dog being accused of this action is a dog named Duchess, who is a Basset Hound mix that belongs to Heather Allen and her family. I have read through the statements, including Miss Stanley's statement that on that day, she and her dog Tucker left the Stanley property with the dog off leash, and that sometime during that period of time, the dog Tucker and the dog Duchess became involved in a dispute. Disputes between dogs are, because they don't have hands and thumbs, handled with their teeth. Miss Stanley made the understandable, and frankly, I've done it myself, mistake of reaching in between two dogs that were scrapping. Now, I do not doubt this was a traumatic event. It's very scary. I have been bitten a number of times, including by the dogs that I investigate who have actually killed people. I have had injuries to the hand. I've examined the photographs of the hand injury and find that that is a single engagement where most likely the canine tooth of one of the dogs punctured the end of Miss Stanley's thumb, and that there are minor punctures, a couple of them, I can't see exactly how many, to the index finger, and the index finger seems to show minor swelling. This is painful. Any of us, and I'm sure the board is well aware, any of us who've ever hit our thumb with a hammer know that that hurts like crazy. However, what we have here, based on the evidence presented and looking at the injury, is the fact that a human, meaning well, without probably knowing the proper way to do it, reached in between two dogs that were having a species appropriate disagreement. It is more than likely that Duchess was responding to the incursion of Tucker onto property that, according to testimony and information I've been given and discussion with Ms. Allen, that Tucker was accustomed and to the customary and regular use of that property. And again, as Ms. Stanley says, it's not her property. So here we have a dog that has exited its home property, Tucker, and then gone into the property customarily used by the dog, Duchess, who would, of course, not understand the concept of a property line. My examination of, for instance, the veterinary records, which I will refer to here, show that the veterinarian stated, and I'm pulling it up on my screen so I can read the statement to you, that Tucker was presented to Angel for a wound on his back after a dog fight. That is completely and totally consistent with the incident that Ms. Stanley describes. The vet further goes and mentions that there were sutures and minor repairs done to Tucker's back. Now, having investigated cruelty and human and dog fatalities and injuries, literally from here to Australia and back, I can tell you that neither the injuries to the dog, based on the veterinary report, or the injuries to Ms. Stanley rise to the level of even being remotely life-threatening. And instead, they're painful, they're obnoxious. However, this does not rise to the level of declaring Duchess as a dangerous dog. This is a dog who was on its own perceived property, and another dog came onto the property, and the dog expressed itself in species appropriate manner. This was not a mauling. There are no other injuries documented to Miss Stanley, even though I'm sure she was frightened and I'm sure she is terribly stressed by this. There are no other damages other than the bite to the hand. And having investigated over 30 human fatalities, not to count the huge number of dog bites that I've done that were not life-threatening, if this had been a mauling, a multiple bite incident, we would have photographs of a lot more than simply a bite to the hand. I myself have been bitten in the hand while interrupting two of my dogs that I should have known better that were fighting. The behavioral issue here is that when dogs interact with each other, they essentially pull their punches and they aim their teeth at the thicker, physically thicker skin around the neck, the back of the neck, and the top of the back. That's how dogs communicate with each other and settle things. What happens when people get involved is they reach in, and what would have been a moderated and controlled engagement can turn out to be more serious than it would have been had the person not intervened. It's entirely possible that under the description, that the wound to Tucker's back may have been because the dog, Duchess, bit with less force, but there's something we call a withdrawal injury, where the tooth is engaged shallowly, the person pulls away or pulls the dogs away, and it tears the flesh. There is no indication on the veterinary report that there were injuries to the fascia, to the underlying muscles. There were no organic, or as in organs, damage done. There was no injury to the spine or the spinal processes. There was no injury to anything but the dog's skin. That tells me that the engagement with the dog was limited, controlled, and species appropriate. And again, I'm sure Miss Stanley was horribly frightened when these things happen. They're loud. There's a lot of spit and fur that flies, but this was not a dangerous attack upon a human. This was a human who did the natural thing and tried to protect her dog, and unfortunately got hurt in the process. Does the board have any questions through the chair that I can answer?
Well, first, I'm gonna make sure no one else wants to testify in that. The procedure is we'll then hear a statement from the animal control officer, and then I'll open it up to the board. So the board can then take it from that point on, ask questions. So is there anyone else that wishes to speak for either the dog owner themselves or on behalf of the dog owner? Okay, seeing none.
No, two of us have hands up. My dog trainer has her hands up, and Michael and I do as well.
Can you hit raise virtual hands, Heather?
Yeah, it has to be virtual hands.
Because
How
do I do that?
He can't see all the screens. Down on the bottom under reactions,
okay,
there is a raise hand feature. So then the chair can see everybody who wants to speak.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's just so he can see who's there. And
I don't have that on mine.
Oh, reactions, okay.
Heather Allen should be the next because she is
Okay.
the dog
Wait,
owner.
sorry.
I'll
There.
since I do it.
Okay.
So who's speaking right now?
Heather Allen should.
Heather Allen. Is Heather Allen speaking right now? I've changed
Yeah.
the screen over, so I can only see a limited number of people.
Sorry, I don't have a reactions button.
Because it's Heather Michael Allen for your thing. Okay. This, if you like say, if you click on participants, well, whatever. I see you now. Okay, so you wish to speak. You are the dog owners, correct?
Oh, now I see it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got my hand up.
Yeah, you can actually put it down now.
Sorry.
So okay, I'm just confirming you were the dog owners, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So please repeat after me. I, and then please state your names, especially if you're both going to speak. State both your names.
I'll just speak. I, Heather Allen,
Hereby swear that the statements I make today
hereby swear the statements that I make today
in this matter are the truth.
in this matter are the truth.
Please make your statement.
I am the owner of Duchess. I did not witness the attack. I was working the day that it happened. My 17-year-old daughter was up in her bedroom. She heard the barking. She looked out of her window and she saw something going on in the backyard with dogs. So she ran down and got me. By the time I ran out there, I did see Ashley and her dog Tucker. I didn't see my dogs around them at the time. They were on my property at the time. By the time I grabbed my shoes, ran outside, there were no humans left on our property. But as a concerned neighbor, which I was, I ran over, and on my way over there, I noticed her shoes, her cell phone, and her cup. Emma was with me at the time, which we picked up to bring over. I was concerned. I actually went over to her house right after to bring her items to her and to check to see what was going on because I was concerned. Officer Ted Stone was already there. I believe this is in the police report, and it was video cammed. He was talking to her, so he came over afterwards. I've been open to talk all along. I provided all of my information. I shared with Officer Ted Stone that I was more than willing to talk and engage and to help resolve this. And that information, I believe, was shared numerous times. We care about people, we care about our community, we care about our dogs. I called our trainer. We've used a trainer, Kate Brady, who's on, and I believe she wants to speak after I do. We called her right away to bring her back. If there's any training issues, I wanted to address that right away. I brought all 3 of their dog collars out to make sure the invisible fence was working. I made an appointment with the vet just to make sure that there was nothing maybe physical that might have caused this to occur. So those were some of the things that we did. And yes, we did end up putting up a fence just along the border. We haven't done our entirety property yet. I'm not sure that we're going to. It wasn't chicken wire. It was actually livestock fence, which is all over Sherborn. It's what most people use to contain their animals in Sherborn. It's graded for pets. It might not be the best looking, but it's certainly contains animals. And when we put that up, Kelly came over very upset. They thought that we were being very aggressive by putting up the fence, which, you know, concerned us. I know in the complaint letter, there was a mention of a second incident that we weren't out there with our dogs, and that just wasn't true. And Theo was out there, Michael was out there grilling, and to be able to see into our yard from their property, they actually have to walk out of their property, go around the mishes, and then come into our property. So you have to walk some distance to actually get into our property. And then just to quickly comment on the incident in October with Nala, who's one of our dogs. There wasn't a big dog fight with her. Like, she got into a little scuffle with Duke, and I also stupidly, I think someone had mentioned, like, stuck their hand in to dogs that were going at it. I stuck my hand in Nala's, mouth. She didn't reach out to bite me. Like, I put my finger in there and got chomped on. I drove myself to the emergency room to get a stitch. I drove back and I was back on a work call like within minutes. So, and Kim Morrow called. I talked to the police officer. Like, there was nothing. There was no fight. There was nothing big to report. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony.
Sure.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on behalf of the dog owners? I'm going to try to flip around, but if you appreciate if you raise your virtual hand. Okay, I see none.
My hand is up.
Eric,
she's got the.
Please, everybody, calm down. She hit the wave button instead of the raise hand.
I'll use the hit the wave.
Pointing it out to him.
Oh,
He's
where's
now
the
going to
raised
recognize
hand?
her.
Under participants. So I'm just going to state this one last time because we have this a lot and it's very emotional. Just so people see that. When you click on participants, you see the list of everyone on it. When you raise your hand, you bump to the top and there's a little blue hand next to it. That's what I and pretty much everyone else are looking at. That's kind of how this works. I want to give everyone a means to speak, but just, you know, I guess be patient as we deal with this medium. So I have your name as Kate here.
You'll need to unmute yourself, Kate.
There. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So I just want to confirm you are going to speak on behalf of the dog owner.
Yes.
And I'm going to swear you in. So I state your name.
I, Kate Brady,
Hereby swear that the statements I make today
hereby swear that the statements I make today
in this matter are the truth.
in this matter are the truth.
Please make a testimony.
I originally trained the Allen's first dog, Duke. I then, the following year, when they got Duchess, who was 2 years old at the time, I came to train her too. They immediately wanted to make sure that both dogs worked together well and that they could get through putting 2 dogs together and getting another dog in the family without too much trouble. I work with dogs with behavior issues and owners of dogs with behavior issues. And so even though somebody comes in, I come into a place where there isn't an issue, I always look to see if there are signs that there might be an issue coming up. And I did not notice at that time any problems at all with Duchess that was in the beginning when she was 2 years old. On the day of the incident, I got a call from the Allens, and the next day I came over to talk with them, and they told me that they had already called the fencing company on I think it was because one of the animal control officers suggested that they get a fence in. They also told me that to evaluate what had happened and that they would do anything that I suggested, anything I recommended. So what I did was, as much as I could, I evaluated Duchess mostly with the other dogs because that's where how the incident happened with the other dogs there. So I evaluated them kind of together to see how they acted. I evaluated them with the family members, how Duchess in particular acted around the invisible fence, around the property line, around people and dogs that walked by to see what kind of reaction she had. And again, I didn't see anything that made me go, aha, or there's an issue there. But I did feel that the Allens needed to get more involved in creating more of a cohesive group with the dogs instead of having the dogs kind of be their own group. And so with that in mind, we have started retraining with the entire family. There are 5 children. And so we have had this amazing training with all 5 kids totally involved, plus Heather and Mike, all 3 dogs, so that all 3 dogs are relearning the same thing. We have taught them many things such as staying with many distractions so that they learn some self-control, how to be calm. I teach calmness and relaxation for dogs as part of the training. And so I teach dogs how to be calm and relaxed when there's excitement going on and going in and out the doors and places where dogs can normally start getting into squabbles with each other. As I said, I have to tell you, I was really impressed. I work a lot with the owners of dogs, and what I've done this time is work with the entire family, and everybody was there for every single session I've done so far. I'm just really impressed with that. And they do their homework afterward too. So right after the incident, I did test all the dogs against the fence to see where it occurred and to kind of judge how close they would get to the fence without before they started to slow down and pay attention to it. And yesterday I went back with some neighbors' dogs. These are treeing walker coonhounds who are not at all calm. And we deliberately had the dogs carrying on baying and howling while we walked on the outer part of the electric fence, and because I wanted to see what kind of reaction the dogs had. And I wanted to again see whether any of the dogs, any of them, not just Duchess, but any of them wanted to go closer to the fence than they should. And what is really interesting is the other 2 dogs went charging down the hill to follow where the coonhounds were walking. And Duchess kind of stands there and finally trots down because the other dogs are. I did not see a single thing with her that made me think that she had not only aggression, but even the high energy that often comes with dogs when they get excited and then can start fights because they have all this high energy. I have, in the time that I knew her before and the time that I've been training since the incident, I have not seen, I've seen her basically be this mellow, laid out dog that just will kind of amble around and trot after the other dogs and not have any any excitement, any overexcitement at all. So, in fact, of all three dogs, I would say that Duchess is by far the most phlegmatic of the three of them. She just is not one that carries on and gets wildly excited. So again, I don't know for sure what happened, obviously, because I wasn't there, but it just doesn't ring true that a dog that has never shown the slightest bit of aggression or territorialness all of a sudden changes that much and runs out of her area and across a electric fence. So I think, no, is that somebody there?
Yeah, got some background noise. I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
Yeah, it was David
It's coming from
Williams,
David
though.
Williams. He just
Yeah.
muted.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, so just one more thing. I think the Allens themselves are a pretty mellow family, and I work with dogs with behavior issues, and many of them are truly excited dogs, and they don't know how to calm down. What I see with the Allens dogs are kind of the opposite. Dogs mirror their owner's energy, and so all three of the dogs that I see mirror their owner's calm energy. So I have not seen any type of reaction that would make me say that Duchess is in any way a dangerous dog.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kate.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to try to scroll around, but if anyone can use the raise hand, because I see no one has a right now. Is there any more testimony on behalf of the dog owner? I'm cautiously going to say I see none.
I've been scrolling too, Eric. I don't see anyone.
Okay. So our next step now is to hear a statement.
Well, actually, someone by the name of Gavin Hill just raised their hand.
Just raise their hand.
If they're speaking on behalf of the owner.
Gavin, if you could identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Gavin Hill. I'm an 8th grader. I'm friends with both Theo and Will Allen, and I'm happy to speak tonight in regards to this.
You're going to speak on, okay, you're going to speak on behalf of the dog owner, just to clarify.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to swear you in. Yeah. I, please state your name.
I, Gavin Hill.
Hereby swear the statements I make today.
Hereby swear the statements that I make today.
In this matter are the truth.
In this matter are the truth. Please
go ahead, Gavin.
Again, my name is Gavin Hill, close friends of both Theo and Will Allen. Everything in me is to support the Allen family, and throughout my friendship in the past 4 years with them, the Allen household has been nothing but welcoming, and also it's been a blast because I love it. But as lovely as the Allen house is, the biggest highlight and reason for me to come to their house all the time is actually the dogs, and especially Duchess. As a small 6th grader having new friends at a new school, Duchess always welcomed me with open arms and made sure that I felt at home. Even at the countless sleepovers that I've had there, her gentleness and loving qualities made it much easier to fall asleep next to after much too much Halloween candy. Even when my tiny new puppy, Sparky, who was only a couple months old, visited their house 2 years ago, she was the one who took him under her wing and playfully loved him for 30 straight minutes. What I love about her so much is how she is always adoring and gentle, even if I've had a bad day and wasn't happy. If anyone used the adjective aggressive to describe Duchess, I would probably laugh at their face and tell them that they're thinking of the wrong dog. Something the dogs always loved to do, because they loved to be outside, was to come and try to join our basketball games. I even remember times when Duchess was so happy to be with us that she even wanted to go sledding. But the only reason that Duchess is this way is because she lives in that house with that family. I know that Allen parents can be firm at times, but that's only because they are also kind, caring, welcoming, forgiving, and disciplines. Everything they do is for the people around them, not for themselves. I also know how much this wonderful dog means to them, especially Theo, who I know likes to sleep with her downstairs in the summer. Even though the kids can be a little crazy and funny at times, they all balance each other out, including the dogs. If Will and Theo get into an argument because they have such lovely dogs and family around them, all is forgiven and finished. The result of all of the different personalities and people in that family is the most comfortable and amazing group of people you will ever meet. If there was a tragedy and somehow I was without somewhere to live and be with, the Allen family would be the first ones to offer me a place to stay, and the first place I would accept. I'm very grateful to have met this amazing family, and I hope we can keep close in the future. To conclude, I hope you have heard what I feel, because the truth of the matter is, Duchess is a kind, gentle, and loving dog in the best environment possible for a happy dog to keep being happy.
Thank you very much for that testimony, Gavin. Thank you. Is there anyone else on behalf of the dog owners? Let's scroll.
There's a Mish hand up, a Zoa Mish.
I think she's touching something on her screen, actually.
Well, they've got their hand raised.
Oh, no, they don't. They're touching the raise hand button. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. So I see two people there on the screen. Are you both giving testimony, or is one?
I'm giving a testimony.
Okay. And I'm assuming, I'm just going to clarify, on behalf of the dog owner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to swear you in, please. So, please state your name.
I, Sophia Mish,
Hereby swear that the statements I make today,
hereby swear that the statements I make today,
in this matter, are the truth.
I'm sorry, say that again.
In this matter, are the truth.
In this matter are the truth.
Okay. Please go ahead with your testimony.
Hi, I'm Sophia Mish. I'm actually the neighbors of the Allens, and I have been for over the past 2 years. Their 3 dogs I know are the 3 kindest dogs that I have ever met. I love spending time and enjoy their company. And out of all 3 dogs, Duchess, I definitely agree, is probably the most gentle. Whenever I'm with Addie, she always calls her fat, lazy dog. It's the funniest thing. And I think that she's so kind and so gentle. The whole family as a whole is an amazing family, and I love living in this neighborhood with them. I recently just got a dog in the past year. Her name is Tori, and when we brought her there for the first time to meet the dogs, Duchess was the most gentle to her, and Tori felt very comfortable. Tori's actually a very antisocial dog and doesn't really hang out with other dogs. She's kind of in her own kind of little space. But with Duchess, she was super comfortable, and Duchess was so kind to her. Again, the family is so kind and loving, and they treat everyone with respect and the respect that they deserve. I love spending time with Duchess. She's the sweetest thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very much for that testimony. Any other testimony on behalf of the dog owner? Okay, once again, I'm cautiously say I see none.
I don't see it either, Eric.
Okay, cautiously. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to hear from the animal officer. I believe Sergeant Tedstone, Luke Tedstone. Are you in the audience?
You're unmuted, Luke. Should be good.
Okay, good evening.
Thank you, Sergeant Tedstone. If you could please give your statement.
Sure, I, Luke Tedstone, swear the statements I make today in this matter are the truth. To summarize, on Sunday, March 21st, 2021, at around 11:40 a.m., I was dispatched to Forest Street for a report of a dog bite. While responding, I requested that the Sherborn Fire Department also respond due to the call. Upon arrival, I spoke with a female that had been injured and a dog that had also been injured, apparently as a result of another dog bite. Ultimately, as noted earlier, the female was transported to be treated, and the dog was taken to an animal veterinary facility to be treated. There's some dispute as to the location of where the incident occurred. I wasn't there. I didn't witness it. I basically spoke with involved parties as well as witnesses, and gathered information and put a report together. So again, I wasn't there. I didn't witness it. I did speak with, I believe, everyone involved and got their side of the story, which you've heard a good deal of tonight. But they've certainly been more involved in the process of being involved and being a direct witness as I was responding after the fact.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sergeant Ted Stone. Okay, at this point, the testimony portion of the hearing is closed. I'm going to open this up for discussion amongst the select board. Does anyone in the current members of the select board want to make a statement or a dialogue or anything about what they've heard tonight, or about this what you've read tonight as well?
Eric, I think what's important, just because we have a big audience, maybe just clarify exactly what our role is. We're determining whether Duchess is a dangerous dog, and we have, what is it? It's, first of all, it's 3 options. We either go ahead.
Yeah,
explain it. That, I think that makes sense, that so everybody is clear what we're doing.
So at the end of this hearing, the goal is basically to make a finding, and the finding is whether it is there is essentially no decision with the dog, essentially that it is neither a nuisance nor a dangerous dog. Is it a nuisance dog or is it a dangerous dog? And if it is determined to be a dangerous dog, they say you can make orders for various findings as laid out. You can make findings such as the dog can be humanly restrained, the dog can be confined to the premises, that dog can be muzzled and removed from the premises, from that residence. The owner or keeper of the dog might have to provide proof of insurance. That you may have to microchip the dog. That you may have to neuter or spay the dog, or up to including the dog to be euthanized. Those are some of the options that would result of the findings if it is determined to be a dangerous dog. I don't believe, and someone correct me if wrong, that I think if it's a nuisance dog, there's any significant findings resulting with that. And obviously, if it's neither a nuisance nor a dangerous dog, then there's obviously no findings from that as well.
So,
go ahead, George.
Can I make a statement? I think based on everything I've read and the testimony that I've heard, that that I really don't think that this dog should be found to be a nuisance or a dangerous dog. I don't see any evidence that the dog has, I mean, there was this one incident that seems to have, I think one of the ways that they say a dog can be determined to be a dangerous dog if it was approached on its property. And it appears to me that the dog, at least, even if it may have not have been exactly on the Allen's property, it was on property that the dog was possessive of, because it may have been on the Mish's property that they were allowed to be on. So I really don't see how we could determine that this dog's either a dangerous dog or a nuisance.
Okay.
I beg your pardon. May I, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, please.
We should ask counsel for each of the parties if they have any presentation to make, or if they have any questions for their clients.
Okay, I thought we'd take that when we do public comment after
Okay.
the board's discussion amongst the board, because then we do that. We'll discuss amongst the board. We'll go to public. Now you're right. When we go to public, I'll first open up to any councils. I'll open up to any council for either representative, and then to the public in general. But then I take it back to the board. So that's how I intend to do this.
So in addition to George's statement, we've done this for other dogs before. Can you refresh my memory on the distinction? I think they describe a nuisance versus a dangerous dog also.
Okay, I will reiterate though. I'm reading what's in the background material, so let me.
Yeah, I think it's good for everyone to hear also.
Okay, let me look up. Is there any other questions as I look up some of that definition? Or, yeah, Paul?
So I think that there ought to be an opportunity for additional testimony in rebuttal. That is, we've heard the story of both sides, but it'd be nice to give them an opportunity to respond to what they heard the other side say. I think that might bring us closer to being able to find the truth here and figure out what to do if we afforded them an opportunity to respond to each other.
Okay. So if there's no more discussion, I can take comments from the public, which I'll the first comments will be from the any representatives or council, but particularly council representing the sides. Is there any more discussion amongst the board? And Jeff, I'll try to look up that definition, or maybe I'll ask Amanda to help out with that definition. Amanda, while we're hearing some stuff, if maybe you could also help out with some of the definition of a nuisance versus dangerous dog. So I see Jeremy Cohen is raising his hand, and Jeremy, please just identify yourself and who you represent to the public, please.
I think you need to unmute yourself,
You're
Jeremy.
muted, Jeremy.
Take two. My name is Jeremy Cohen. I'm an attorney with Boston Dog Lawyers, and I represent the Allens and Dutchess. This was a bad injury. I mean, there's no question about that. But the law is pretty clear. And I'm just going to briefly walk us through the law, and then I've provided it to the board, but you should also look at it on your own. But the number one thing is that Ashley is in violation, admittedly in violation of your bylaw. Okay, 5A, section 1. If you're not on your own property, your dog has to be on a leash. And if it's not on a leash because it has good recall, you have to have the leash with you. Well, in the police report, in version 1, I mean, then it kept changing because the law kept shutting her down. But in version 1, she said that her wife had to bring the leash over from the house. So violation of a bylaw, as I provided the board, is negligence, is a tort. And so right there, it's not fun to blame a victim, but she's already violated law 1. Then your bylaw, which
Sorry, did you cut out? I'm sorry, I think the leader, Mr. Cohen, has cut out. Is he still present here?
I don't see him on the screen anymore.
He must have lost his connection. Maybe give him a second to come back. Or...
Yep, it might take a minute. Let's give him a minute. I will take that minute, by the way. So council has sent me some definitions of dangerous versus nuisance dogs. I'll actually take that minute as Selectman Waldron has requested. So a dangerous dog is defined as a dog that either 1, without justification, attacks a person or domestic animal, causing physical injury or death, or 2, behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. A nuisance dog is a dog that 1, by excessive barking or other disturbance, is a source of annoyance to a sick person residing in the vicinity, or 2, by excessive barking causes damage or other interference a reasonable person would find such behavior disruptive to one's quiet and peaceful enjoyment, or 3, has threatened or attacked livestock, a domestic animal, or a person, but that such threat or attack was not grossly disproportionate reaction under all the circumstances.
I admitted him back into, thank you, Eric. I admitted him back into the room, but I don't see, there you are.
I see him, he's here. Go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Cohen, please continue your.
Thank you. I've been dying to talk for an hour and 15 minutes. I finally get my chance and my Zoom shuts down. So an unleashed dog on someone else's property. We believe it was on our property. Dutchess has never left the property previously. As Mr. Crosby testified, this is how dogs argue. I mean, Tucker and Dutchess, now in the police report, Dutchess was said to be part of a dog fight and was going towards Tucker. Then that changed and it became, no, it wasn't a dog fight. This was a dog attack, and Dutchess was going after both the human and the dog. That's simply not true. And the injuries play that out. Unfortunately, when people get bit, and sometimes it's just nobody to blame. Here, certainly this dog doesn't fit the definition of a dangerous dog, and really not even a nuisance dog, because we were on our property. And the law carves out an exception for dogs that are reacting when they're on their property, and the reaction is not grossly disproportionate. Here, it wasn't. The dog bit Tucker where dogs bite, in the safe spot on the neck, and bit a hand that was intervening. Okay, there was never a human target. There's never been a human target by Duchess. If Ms. Stanley was here, I would certainly ask her about some of these comments, but you know, they're here because they want to have a fence put up, and they don't want to have anything bad happen to the dog. Yet a fence has been put up because people think that these hearings are going to help them. If this dog is deemed a nuisance or a danger, they think it helps them in their civil case. So using this hearing as a vehicle to try to help them in their civil case, I mean, their civil lawyer is here. This is about a dog and whether it's dangerous or a nuisance or nothing. The trainer, if I had had an opportunity to question her and my client, it's what they've engaged in since. I mean, they put up a fence. Lawyer, mockingly says it's chicken wire. It's not. It's as you heard, it's a livestock fence, and they were yelled at for doing that. By the way, they have engaged the trainer in an ongoing agreement from stage one. They said, "Look, Duchess was on our property. She behaved like a dog under the law is allowed to behave, but we want to be good neighbors. Let's reset. Let's have our trainer come back, Kate Brady, and let's just start from as if they've never been trained before. Let's train the family and the dogs all at the same time. This way, at least, some of the statements from the attorney were that the clients could care less and they're not engaged. This shows that they're engaged. They've always cared. And the fact that they've put together a team just for tonight, they care. They're sorry this happened. You can be sorry without admitting liability. I know the police report was saying, oh, she said she's sorry, so it must be their fault. No, you can be sorry when a dog bites somebody who ends up bleeding and not be it an admission of liability. In looking at the evidence, and I'm not going to take too long here, but in looking at the evidence, the evidence I was supplied with showed a vet, as Mr. Crosby said, showed a vet statement that there was one bite to the back that really needed to be addressed. A couple other were stitched. We weren't provided with any vet bill, and the dog went home the same day. In dangerous dog cases, that doesn't happen. Dogs don't go home the same day. Sometimes they don't even live. And as far as Miss Stanley's injury, I mean, clearly we've seen it. But again, when you look at the Framingham Union Hospital paperwork, the discharge paperwork, it just references her thumb. And so there's been nothing else to show that this was a bite that rises to the level of a nuisance or a danger. Now, in their lives, this is a big deal. This is a bad bite, and it sounds like they're going to be dealing with for a while. I hope they can get good help, but they can get help. My clients can address this to try to do their part to make them feel comfortable. They're agreeing. Well, they've already voluntarily put up a fence and engaged in the training, which is something some boards have to order people to do. And so they're doing their part to try to make their neighbors heal in the little bit way that they can. But it's just, the law has a carve-out for this. And to determine that the dog could have any other label just doesn't fit with the law. And I've supplied you with verbatim excerpts, but I'm sure your attorney has as well, with definitions of an attack, of a dangerous dog and a nuisance dog. And there's no priors for Duchess. And when you look at the letters that have been submitted, oftentimes I don't submit letters because it's so repetitive. But here, each person has their own experiences. It's not just a one time with Duchess. And each one of them are saying, they can't believe that this happened. They can't believe Duchess behaved like this. So had I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Crosby or Miss Brady, which I have obviously before here, I said, well, then why? Why did it happen now if it hasn't happened in 6 years? And, when a strange dog and a strange person, they moved in July, come on a dog's property, that dog's natural instincts, as the law spells out the dog can do, are to protect itself, its offspring, its siblings, other domesticated animals, and its people. And we don't know if Tucker charged at Duchess first, but we know this was on their property because the shoes, the sandals, the coffee mug, the glasses, or the phone, they were all on my client's property. And the concern I have is that in Miss Stanley's statement, each statement that she's made, the facts have changed to fit the narrative that this was our fault. And sometimes bad things can happen to good people and it's nobody's fault. So I'm asking the board to just follow the facts, but more importantly, follow the law here and dismiss the action. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, next I have is Seth Jacobs. Seth Jacobs, your counsel representing the other side of this. Is that correct? Just confirming that. I think you spoke before.
Yes, I'm representing Ms. Dennehy and Ms. Stanley.
So one thing I want to say is I do want to avoid this being a back and forth for hours between like you make a statement and someone else worries that that's not a true statement. So we're gonna take the two statements from the council and we'll consider them both. So make a thorough statement, but I'm sure you'll say something that the other council will want to respond to and vice versa. But I think we're absorbing this well, and I think at that point we're gonna bring it back to the board. We can ask questions as if we hear any inconsistencies or anything we want filled in. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First, of course, there's a dispute here about where the dog was, and there's been talk about their dog being happening on their property. It happened, and an independent witness who told Sergeant Tedstone beyond the limits of their fence, of their invisible fence there. They broke the fence and they caused this attack. That's how it happened. That's how an independent witness stated to Sergeant Tedstone. Again, we came here in good faith, and I think very generously throwing the worst case scenario off the table right away. I think that was very, very kind of my clients because they're decent people, and you can tell they've gone through hell. You can tell. And then Mr. Cohen comes here and tells us that they're doing it for this kind of nefarious reason to help a civil case, which he knows we don't need this for a civil case. It's strict liability. He knows this. He's throwing it out there to make it look like it's some type of propped up thing, which is insulting to my clients who have gone through this. They were right behind their property, an area which is about 100 yards, about a football field away from the Mish house, where they maintain. And the dogs broke the fence. It's really as simple as that. And for some reason, the Allens have had a trouble coming to terms with fault here. And instead of being contrite, have continued to paint them as victims, as their attorney just did it as well. So we thank you for your time. I think the evidence speaks for itself.
Well, thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm going to bring this back to the board. I'm also going to clarify something, just because I read something here before when I talked about either like a no finding or no fault nuisance or a dangerous and the options for the dangerous dog. It actually does say if the hearing authority deems a dog a nuisance dog, the hearing authority may further order that the owner or keeper of the dog take remedial action to ameliorate the cause of the nuisance behavior. So there are options to actually make findings. It's just less prescribed if it's a nuisance dog versus a dangerous dog.
Just to clarify one thing, Eric, it says very clearly in our things that the first thing we need to do is make a finding and vote whether to A, dismiss the claim, not say no action or whatever, it's actually to dismiss the claim, A, deem the dog a nuisance dog, or C, deem the dog a dangerous dog.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
I just wanted to clarify. It's not like saying no action. It's actually.
Yeah, I didn't mean. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Paul. Yeah, Paul, please go ahead.
So there was reference to all these materials that had been submitted by council. I have not reviewed. I may not. I don't know whether or not I received them. If they were sent too late for me to have an opportunity to review them before the start of this hearing. They have to come at least 2 days before the hearing. They can't come 5 minutes before a hearing and expect them to be reviewed. So if he is serious about wanting them to be reviewed, then we need to postpone further action in consideration of this event until we've had a chance to review the submissions.
And I think that's a very valid point. I think there's basically two options here. Either we do not consider the late submitted. I have to admit, I have not thoroughly looked at it. I've glanced at it at email, and that's about it. I saw some came to our council like 5:13, came to us by about, you know, around 6. Others even later than that. Or you know, so again, we could actually continue the hearing and evaluate this information, or not consider the close the hearing and not consider the I'm sorry, the late submission. Are there any thoughts in that?
I was just going to state the facts so that, you know, people don't. We received 3 attachments that I can see, one at 4:50 p.m., one at 5:51 p.m., and one at 5:53 p.m. all today. All, you know, the last 2 were like an hour and 7 minutes before we started the hearing. And
Those
it so happened, I'm still talking. It so happened that we had a meeting to prepare for our annual town meeting. So I was actually on a call from about 6:25 to 7 anyway for that. So there really wasn't time to review the materials. I agree with Paul.
So Amanda, I'm sorry, would you like to say something?
Yes, I just to you know, give justice to both Mr. Cohen and Mr. Jacobs. Both those submittals were sent to Chris Brown and to me at our office, and then forwarded to Mr. Williams and Ms. Moores.
And I actually looked down the email chain, and they still came in not soon before we actually received them as well. You're there. Okay, I'm going to give a certain opinion, or I do believe this at least meets a minimum of a nuisance dog as defined by item 3 that I had read off from the council to provide us. That and item 3 says that the dog can be considered a nuisance if it has threatened or attacked livestock or a domestic animal or a person, but such threat or attack was not grossly disproportionate reaction under all circumstances. I do think that fits a basic dog fight that has been described to us even by the expert and by pretty much everyone else, that there was a dog fight between them. I think the question is, was it disproportionate enough, but it did exist, and I think that does fit the legal definition of a nuisance dog. I don't know if anyone has an opinion on that. George.
I actually want to read, and Mr. Cohen referenced this, but I think this is very important, and I think he's 100% correct on this, where it says this should be dismissed if the dog was reacting to another animal or person and the dog's reaction was not grossly disproportionate to any of the following circumstances. The dog was protecting or defending itself, its offspring, another domestic animal, or a person from attack or assault. I think that's what I'm seeing in the evidence. That seems clear to me that the dog is not a nuisance or a dangerous dog.
Okay.
Due to that fact alone.
Jeff, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I feel quite strongly it is a nuisance dog.
Yeah, like that. Paul, based on just the evidence before you, and I know not including the evidence that came in late, but just this discussion, do you have an opinion on?
Well, preliminarily, I'm concerned that there actually was injury here. And because there was injury, if we found the dog to be a nuisance dog, it leaves us in a position where we can do some intervention. If we simply dismiss this and leave the parties without any help from the government, it doesn't seem like they're doing very well at that. It doesn't seem like they've worked this thing out satisfactorily. There seems to be some need for our help. So I'm reluctant to dismiss this and provide no help at all to the situation. I'm not sure what help would be, but I feel that's too much like walking away from two families and not helping either one of them. Maybe there's the way we can help both of them.
Yeah, George, please go ahead.
I think I would have to disagree again. I think the Allens have made every effort here by putting up fences and trying to do a lot and not getting any communication from the other side. I mean, what else would we ask them to do? They've put up a fence. They've got their dog trainer in there. We've done these dog hearings before, and that's usually the kind of things that we've done. The Allens have already done that. I don't know why we would require more than what they've done.
Okay, and so I would like to do something here. I see Jeremy Cohen is raising his hand, by the way, but I'm going to wait until we have questions ourselves or whatever. So I would like to ask, without going into large testimony, are the Allens still on this call?
Yes, we are.
So at least I would like to ask you, basically, is a fence currently installed that can contain the dog? When I say contain, it is like no holes or whatever else. It's around a set area where the dog can be.
So we have an invisible fence around the entire perimeter, which again, I just want to point out, it's an invisible fence, so you can't see it. So when people say they breached the fence, I'm not sure how they could see where they breached it, but that's another point. But so we did put up a physical fence along the border of 41 Forest. And
Okay.
we did that really just with the intent of hopefully giving Ashley and Kelly just some comfort.
I mean, and I just, as honest as you can, if it's not a fully whatever rectangular fence, and I'm sure I'm not using the right words, I mean, could realistically that dog get into their yard?
You're muted, Heather.
They're talking to each other. They're talking to each other.
Oh, sorry.
I don't understand your question. Could any of our dogs get into Ashley and Kelly's yard
That's a
right now?
hypothetical question.
They've enclosed their fence or their yard from what I understand.
Right. You're asking us to predict the future.
No, we're
That's a
not.
hypothetical.
No, we're not. You can see if there's a hole in the fence or there's not a hole in the fence. It's a
No,
physical.
we didn't. That
presence.
wasn't the question.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So my understanding from, we could see if there's a hole in the fence. We could walk over and see if there's any, and we could repair it. In addition to that, it's almost like a double fence now at this point, because Ashley and Kelly have also put up a fence, and I believe that encloses their yard. So and the invisible fence. So now it's almost like a triple fence between like our property and theirs.
And I wasn't asking was there a hole, and I wasn't asking to get through it.
Okay.
I misinterpreted your question, and I'm sorry.
Since it's basically not, I don't know how else to put it, since it's not rectangular and held around, can he get around the fence? Can he get around the fence and get into their yard? I guess that's
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, let me bring it back. Let me bring it back to the board here. Okay, Jeff, please ask.
Well, I think that we need to make a distinction here, which I think is important. We can deem this, I believe, a nuisance dog and not. I agree that the Allens have done a lot of remediation efforts with their trainer and training the whole family, and I respect that. But it can still be deemed a nuisance dog, so that the owners and people in the neighborhood are on warning that this is a nuisance dog, and an incident has happened previously. We don't necessarily have to recommend action to be taken, but we can deem it a nuisance dog, so it's recorded as such. And if an incident happens in the future, then that's another data point in that next hearing.
Okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a call to council. Please give me a minute. Okay, I just wanted to clarify a couple things. So it looks like we are on track. Unless we are on track, we could close this meeting tonight, or we could continue it depending on what the board wants. Within that, I think there's been questions about testimony, but I believe we are in sufficient shape with the testimony if it satisfies the board. There's question about late evidence, but there might be again discretionary amongst the board there as well.
Eric, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
One thing I've thought about when you're on this little break, I did read everything that came in this afternoon, and I'm probably and obviously have been the biggest advocate that we should be dismissing this complaint. I'm actually wondering if maybe we should stay this hearing and give Paul and Jeff a chance to read the rest of those letters that came in this afternoon that clearly states Duchess has never been a dangerous dog or nuisance dog in any way. I mean, from I mean, there was a pile of letters that I read this afternoon that maybe Paul and Jeff and Eric, you all need a chance to really read.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I just glanced at the stuff that came in. I'm essentially not considering it in this hearing right now. But I would consider a continuation of this hearing. I do want to consider how we continue it. And I think we've heard testimony. I think there might be something where basically we continue it at this point where we've actually ceased testimony. When we continue again, we go back to discussion amongst the board, maybe hear a couple more statements and then go back to the board again after we look at it. I would kind of be less entertained to do that if we go back and start this effectively over, with the testimony. I don't know what any thoughts are. So first of all, what's the general thoughts on the board of continuing the hearing in general? Does anyone from the board have any pros or cons for that?
I think David muted everybody, so I got to unmute the board. Sorry.
No, I told you what I thought. So I'd like to hear from Jeff and Paul and what you guys think.
I'm just going to let Paul go first.
Well, I'm open to considering all the evidence. It just doesn't seem fair to the Allen family that their lawyers put together all this material that I know nothing about. I didn't have a chance in the last hour or two before the hearing to see it or consider it. So it doesn't seem fair to me to take any action without giving them an opportunity to fully state their case.
I also just saw something. And also the fact that the material just came in, it wasn't actually available as background material, which is public information. And I believe the other side should be able to see that information as well if we consider it. If we consider it now, I don't think it's fair that the other side consider it. But if we continue the hearing, I think we can look at it, and frankly, the other side can look at it as well. Jeff, do you have thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I think I agree with what George and Paul said and what you said. So I think a continuation would allow us to do our homework.
But I would consider continuation under it that we are done with the testimony portion of this hearing, only a portion of that. I'm not looking to restart the hearing. It'll be discussion amongst the board, and we'll be able to ask people questions. I may allow a statement from each council. It'll be the same thing. Like I recognize that Jeremy Cohen is raising his hands, but I need to avoid the back and forth here because I know everyone's going to say something that bothers the other side and they're going to want to respond to it. So at least this will give that opportunity as well. So if we continue it, we will look at the information. There's a couple things I'd like to do. We need to make a date and time certain. And I also want to put a deadline for any additional information. There needs to be kind of a pencils down, a deadline if any additional information comes in on this as well. And I also want to add, when's our election? Was it June something? June 15th, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So at that date, the structure of the board changes a little bit. And I suggest we do it at some point before that. So it's just a certain some continuity, the structure and content of the board changes. We're going to have a new member in fashion or another. Let me check something here real quick.
We see your hand, Mr. Cohen. We're having a discussion amongst our board. It's not like we're having a discussion amongst our board.
Understood, but we could resolve it right now.
You haven't been recognized, sir.
Well, I'll tell you that you will have an opportunity. It looks like we're going to continue this, Mr. Cohen. It does. Looks like we're going to continue this. And it's not even because of testimony. It's because of just we want to be able to evaluate information that's come in at the last minute. George has seen the information, and the rest of us haven't looked at it that closely. He has a different opinion from us. That's a concern of several of us. I will tell you that we will give you an opportunity to speak at the continuation of this hearing. We will give both sides a brief statement to speak as a public comment. So it will not be testimony or not be sworn in at the thing there. And so I think, no matter what anyone says at this point, we want to be able to look at that information that three of us have not been able to look at closely. So basically, I can't find the agenda in front of me. What's your
So I have the agenda here, Eric. The next meetings we have for the select board, if that's what you're looking for, we have 5/27 and 6/10. Now the
All right.
6/10, we have our other commitment that evening also, as you know.
Yeah, but that one's earlier. Hey, Diane, you there? How do our agendas look? Obviously, this one's gonna take some time. How do our agendas look on 5/27 and 6/10?
Well, we could do it on 5/27, but I would think 6/10 might be better.
The only thing is
I would suggest we do it on 5/27 because I would like to get this resolved. I think a lot of people have been on both sides, have been through a lot here, and I don't want to continue it any longer than we need to. I really think we need to make time on the 27th to get this resolved.
Okay.
I do agree 100%.
I agree. Okay.
And on the slight chance it needs to get continued, it won't. I absolutely want to finish this before any change the structure of the board.
We probably need to at least confirm that all the parties can be present. Some of the attorneys may have a case that night or something.
Right. Yeah, maybe check with the attorneys and try to limit it to just this answer to the question so we don't have a back and forth.
Yeah.
I know. So for the, I will ask the two counsel, and you can also confer with your clients as well on their availability. Are you and or your clients available on 7/15 at 5/27?
On 5/27 at 7:15. You said
May 27th at 7:15 p.m.
May 27th at 7:15.
That works. That works for us.
Okay. And who was that? Just so I know, because
that was Mr. Jacobs for the complainant. And then if somebody wants to unmute Mr. Cohen so he can answer.
I'm trying to find where he went.
I don't have control over it, so.
I don't. There he is.
Yeah.
You're unmuted, Jeremy.
That works for us. Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be it. I set 7:15, so that's a common time for hearings. Does anyone on the board have an objection to that? Okay, so a date and time certain. This hearing is continued with the testimony portion closed. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any further ado, we move on to agenda item number 5. Discussion. Oh, there is one thing I wanted to say. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry about that before people go. So it's 5:20.
Everybody already left. Everybody left.
Oh,
Okay.
We can send them this during email well. So 5:27. We want to make a deadline of what, the 24th for all information, kind of pencils down just to make sure we don't get any last minute exhibits or any last minute background.
Are we opening it up to more exhibits and more background, or?
That's a good question. Maybe not. Yeah. Since it's consider everything.
They've already submitted everything. I think we should just consider the evidence that we had before tonight.
Yep. So to give us an opportunity to look at what's been done here. We can also make it available to the other sides as well. Okay, so no more information past this point. Very good idea. Thank you. That way we don't have to worry about if anyone's signed off now as well.
Right.
All right. Very good. Okay. Now anything further? Move off to agenda item number 5, discussion of town hall space needs. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a sheet on that, so I'm not sure who's speaking to that.
It's me, Eric, David.
Oh, hi, David. How you doing?
At one time, it was mentioned in the meeting that we should put this on an agenda to talk about. It doesn't necessarily have to be talked about tonight, but I will give you just a quick rundown brief. We've had space requirements at town, space issues at town hall in the past. The last time that we looked at it, Gino had actually talked to everybody and mapped out a proposed movement of offices. There were some people that held out on that and were not happy, so we put that away. That was about 6 years ago. With the COVID issue, Sean and all of us have been looking at how the space can be better used to accommodate, people in the office and get spread out and that kind of thing. We also have a number of people who have requested office space, such as recreation, sustainability. We have the town treasurer taking up a small conference room. So we decided that we would move out the museum from the basement of Town Hall. And they were put in storage and renovations were made down there. We had originally thought that we were going to put all the permitting and regulatory people downstairs. But when we looked at the space and how people would actually move around the building, I wanted to be closer to finance so I could be closer to the finance director on a continuing basis. So it made more sense and an easier move to move finance down to the basement with Diane and I down to be in the same space with finance. And that frees up the selectman office to put council on aging on a more prominent footing with people coming in and out of town hall and take advantage of the new entrance that's being made. And then upstairs, the top floor would all be land use and regulation. So we would have permitting, planning board, sustainability, and the former finance office. The former finance director's office would return back to a conference room. And the current space occupied by planning, conservation, and Board of Health would just be Board of Health and conservation in there. And then it just allows for the weight burden to come off that corner of the building, which we have a report that says that we needed to move the Board of Health files out of there because it is causing a crack in the walls, and Sean could talk more about that. So as it stands right now, Sean and I and Diane were in agreement that we were going to be relocating my office and Diane's desk down to the basement and bring the finance people down. So really, I don't know how much there is to talk about that, but that's what we have been planning to do.
I guess my first question, well, actually, let me just take it amongst the board. Are there any questions among the board?
Well, I've been sort of involved peripherally for quite a while. I'm not really wild about this plan, to be honest with you. I don't like the select board not being on the first floor. I like the selectman's office to be prominent. And so I'm not in favor of that. And the plan that I thought we were looking at, and we can talk about it further, was that the building departments would all move downstairs. The building inspector, Chris Canny, the health, the conservation commission, and the planning board would be in the lower level. And the advantage of that is then all the contractors come in 3 steps in the back door and they're right at the planning office, so they don't have to traipse up several floors to get to the documents they need to review. I think it's a much more efficient. Many towns, from what I'm told, have a buildings department. I'm using the word buildings department that encompasses the inspectors and the Board of Health, so that all the contractors, they're busy people and they're coming, quickly to go back to a job site. If they can just let them go in the 3 doors in the back, and that puts all the weight of the Board of Health, and it's not just the Board of Health documents that are heavy, but there's also inspection, other documents that are heavy. It puts them on the ground floor, or basement, if you want to call it that. So I think, I'm not sure we can answer it tonight, but I almost feel like we have vaccinated people en masse now. I feel like maybe the select board we should do a walkthrough of town hall together and kind of discuss it as we were walking around, and perhaps with drawings also.
Yeah, Jeff, I agree with you. I like that plan when I had heard about it, about the building department downstairs. I think it makes sense for, like you said, people coming into the building, they're all in one place that they need to see. Chris not being in the selectman's office frees up space in there. That plan always made sense to me. So it probably does. Jeff, I'm a visual person too. So I think the idea of going into town hall and actually having a discussion about the planning in there makes a lot of sense.
And Sean and I'll give you a library tour to boot right afterwards.
Which brings up a point. I mean, these are kind of long-term decisions. I mean, as much as, I love making, subcommittees or whatever else, should it be like a group like 1 or 2 select board members, Sean, maybe representatives from various departments, discuss this? You know what I mean? Is there, or what's, I don't know. That's
I
kind of
think
like,
it really should be discussed with the departments that are in town hall and using the space. I see Susan Kelleher has her hand up and she's somebody affected by this, so maybe.
yeah, please go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, so just so you know, I packed my office up because I thought we were getting some more space, and the COA really needs additional space. I mean, we cannot even have people in to even have a cup of coffee or to have a private area to meet for, shine appointments or health concerns. That office and people, in the office, they have a hard time talking. There's no privacy. So, we were thrilled when thought we could go to the select board's office, but if that's not an option, I would ask that you consider finding us some additional space because we really need it. So that's all I have to say.
And we did talk to all the departments at town hall. They haven't been excluded from this.
And I wasn't suggesting that. I'm just saying,
okay.
as things evolve, we want to make sure people stay in the discussion.
And it ties into a larger space needs of the town, which at least in some form or another, be it before the board or before library trustees, library bill committee, we're all involved with some different things, as everyone has touched on, the global space needs of the town. And like to some degree, I guess my only concern is, I think I'm less concerned of like who sits where, but I'm more concerned about making a move that has long-term ramifications when we're on the verge of either different different space needs and looking at other space needs in town. You know what I'm trying to say? So making a decision like this, when it's just like putting a band-aid on a bigger picture issue. The only global thing I'll say about any council of aging space, no matter what, at least from my support, has to be ADA accessible. That's kind of the whole point of it.
Yep, agreed.
A reasonably accessible. Yeah, Paul?
Just going to comment that many towns have a concentration of what they call plus. Plus is planning, land use, services, and have them all together in one location. So it does make sense that first they all be at town hall, but secondly, in town hall, those services need to be right next to each other. Because at the end of the day, we're a service industry. We have to service the needs of those who have to get those permits or have to look at the documents for compliance and so on and so on. So I agree with the notion that plus services need to be together. And that should be sort of a fundamental organizational process. I also agree that financial services needs to be together in one area. And I agree with the town administrator's notion that he needs to be connected to financial services, because it's sort of a fundamental part of what he does. So that financial services and the town administrator being close together and all financial people being together makes sense to me. So if you take those two organizational principles, then it's a question of what fits on what floor.
Well, Paul, can I ask a clarifying question? What do you include in financial services? Do you, for example, include the assessor's office? That sometimes seems to me that it could be somewhere separate and it's somewhat independent from, like the finance director's office.
I assume he's talking about the, administration under the selectmen and the town administrator and the finance director, not the individual elected offices.
Like treasurer and collector.
Right.
And,
Even though
and the assessors too, right?
Yeah.
Assessors are elected, yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to better understand what, when you refer to finance departments, what you were including in that category.
As Paul said, it is a service business. Like people coming into town hall, we want to make it convenient for the citizens. And I think, like you said, putting the planning and everything that together makes sense. But also on that, you want to make you have to make sure the town clerk and the collector are also accessible.
I think the clerk and collector are almost the most essential to some degree, because I think they have the most access. Count
Yes.
aging closed, but people coming and paying bills, getting stuff. I mean, I visit, town hall. I don't know. Don't laugh at me, Diane, but what, once or twice, at least once a week, and you always see someone at those counters. You just do, And I mean, pre-COVID, of course, but there are definitely daily service, essential services there. I still think one of the things, I don't think here right now in this public meeting and a dialogue among four of us, we're going to solve it. And I think, David might have some good points here. My only single reservation is I actually do like the town administrator being more central, and that way kind of more in tune with essentially the heartbeat and what's going on in town hall versus essentially like in a basement. That's something that does concern me a little bit, but someone's going to end up in the basement. And I'll say after almost 2 decades of being
Eric, one thing I've learned in real estate, it's called the lower level.
Lower level, yes. The only thing in a large buildings, there's no 13th floors. The other thing we learned in construction, there's no 13th floor.
I know that. And also say after 2 decades of doing this business, that's the first time I heard the acronym PLUS, and I'm gonna use that more now. That's
I like it. Yeah, that's good.
Planning, land use. Okay. So what I'm trying to get here is some kind of solution. David has proposed something, and it might be a good idea, but I do think it's in everyone's best interest, in David's best interest, that involves maybe some, I think he has not done it in a vacuum. I think he's communicated with department heads, but obviously, I think maybe we should bring it to some level, have some input, either at select board and other boards levels. So, do we have any thoughts on how we can administer that? Do we want to designate a member of the select board or two to at least meet with David and chime in on this? How do we want to do that? That's just kind of some ideas I have.
I think if Jeff's already been working on it, if he's willing to continue to work on it, I think for me, the problem is to volunteer for something like that, I'm not in town between the hours of
no, I'll do it. But one thing I think would be useful is an org chart and maybe a number of people in each department too, just so we have a ballpark feel.
I mean, I am there.
Well, whatever you want to call it, a list of staff by department. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be graphical, but in other words, how many head count? I used to. I worked in this corporate real estate group, so I'm pretty knowledgeable. We would consolidate offices, and so we look at how many workstations were required and all kind of things. So.
Well, Jeff, when you're doing this, don't put behind the furnace the museum, the library, the community center, and the council on aging.
Okay, no, I've talked to all of them. I really have, and I think we do have a vision, but I just want to make sure that we sort of think it through. And I really am in favor of the buildings departments being down in the basement, only because it's not just them. There's a large number of contractors that come into the building all the time, and now it's not going to be COVID forever, but they're not traipsing through the whole building. It saves them time, but it also exposes the town to, less muddy boots and less whatever. They're just efficient for them and efficient for the town to have them not go throughout the whole building.
Yeah, Jeff, I think, I was supporting that too. It's just later as Sean and I looked at the space, we said, we can accommodate moving a lot of people easily right now, other than and leaving the 3rd floor alone. So really it was a sense of ease of being able to implement it more than
makes sense.
So I like that plan of having them all together in the basement. The lower level.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, we may, to Sue's point, I'm very sensitive to COA. We may take over if the buildings department needs the COA's that space doesn't give you any more square feet, but then, they take over the whole garden level of town hall.
But definitely those plus offices, the land use and permitting they're either going to be on the lower level or the top level together. So, I think we're all in agreement they need to be together.
There's pros and cons to everything. If anyone's on the lower level, then it's hard to, if they're having meetings in the selectman's office, meeting room there, then they got to trape their drawings all the way up several floors. So there's pros and cons to all kinds of things.
I do want to hold a discussion, not to going into certain levels of details. I'll say, I think Jeff, I think is a good point person for an elected board. I think, and Jeff and I just know are also, we're kind of point people onto the library trustees, the library build committee, and there's a lot of discussions on some offsite spaces. I would like to be involved to some degree, not a point person like Jeff. I'm relatively local. I can make myself available, but I've heard a lot from the library trustees, from George Fisk, from a lot of things like that. So I would like to at least be involved. I've been a little involved in some of the offsite stuff there. And I think maybe, Jeff, we can just meet with David and get an idea of, what's been decided tonight. I think there's been a lot of decisions, a lot of discussions. So I'm not looking to interfere. I'm not looking to come in and say, upset the apple cart. Maybe we just find out kind of what's been discussed before, and we can just coordinate with David offline with that. I think that's a good thing there. And we can go over the details at that point. Okay.
I mean, it's key if everybody, if the whole board wants the select board office on the, where it is not to move, then that makes just making that decision and building around it is.
I don't want to sit here at 9:48 at night and upset decisions been made for months, and I've absolutely no intention on doing that whatsoever. I think that's why we want to assign, I call it 1.5 people. Jeff's one, I'm a half person. Just to come in, listen, see what discussions been made, bring it back if we have to. I'm not looking, to upset that and make those decisions. I'm really, really not. Just in the face of it, one thing, well, whatever, who cares? I'm not going to go over the details. I think we have a reasonable game plan at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. Without that, I think we're fine to move on to agenda item number 6, routine business with select board reports. Are there any select board reports? George, you have your hand raised?
I don't have a report, but I have a concern that I just want to bring up to the board. Just as a parent, over the weekend, we got a message that Snappers was canceled. I know some part of that, since doing some research, was because surrounding towns didn't. But in the message, it said there's uncertainty if Farm Pond will be putting in the docks this year. And that got me upset. I think the idea of not having docks and encouraging people to be outside swimming at a pond is a really bad idea with how much improvements we've seen on the COVID front. And I really don't think that should be a concern. I think we need to have the docks in and have the pond open for everyone.
Can George, can I address that?
Yep.
I was pretty clear with Jeannie and in a letter to Board of Health at one point, and with Sean, that the docks are going in. And,
okay.
and
No,
Sean...
Jeannie told me that earlier today too. Jeannie, Jeannie. I'm just saying this, the rec commission sent that email to everybody saying it was a concern that the docks weren't going in. And I just wanted to bring it to public forum that I want to make sure the pond's open and the docks are going in.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm glad to hear you backing that, because really, I'm not sure of the exact date, but we plan to do it at the same time that we've done it every year.
This is Jeannie. We usually put it in a few days before the last day of school. And that's what the plan is.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
I don't know where, I'm on the COVID team. I haven't heard it discussed there. So I don't know where the rec commission got their.
No, and I think as Jeannie explained to me earlier today, I think a lot of it has to do with surrounding towns as well. I'm just saying, when I got the email and it said there was a question on the docks, I wanted to like I said, I want to make sure Farm Pond isn't like it was last year and that we can actually use it again.
Why did they cancel Snappers though, I'm wondering?
I think what it was is that one of the reasons is that you can have 50 kids on the dock, which means you're going to have all the parents from other towns. It's why Natick canceled Ashland, Holliston. Yeah. I think that's what it was. It was the amount of people that come to the pond for swim meets.
Yeah, I've tried. I swim every night, so parking spots are tough too.
So we the only other issue was the reservation system, and that's as a backup if the Board of Health says that we need to go back to that grid system and the reservation system, then we can implement that in a matter of days. So, but we weren't going to start the season with that.
Yeah, I don't think they're considering that. They haven't discussed it that I know of.
Yeah, but we can train the lifeguards to say, you got to keep people apart,
Mhm.
and keep the numbers down.
And most of our staff this year is returning, I'd say 90%. So they know what last year was like and they know how to deal with people. So I think I'd like to start the season off without the grids.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then it's already, it looks like there's some changing policies changing pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
right.
see what it is by the time of the opening.
I mean, I don't think we've ever had 150 people on that beach.
True, and I think that's going to go up May 29th to 250.
Right.
And
I think we're going to be good.
oh, you meant during COVID we haven't had 150 people. Okay.
Right now, you're allowed to have 150 people in an outside grouping. That's the maximum you're allowed to have.
I thought you meant ever because I was.
Yeah, and then May 29th, the governor's indicated and the DEP that it'll go to 250 in one setting. So
right.
That's
with the exception of town meeting, we can have more than 150.
Yeah, town meeting is excluded. That's
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
That was good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry to
Good
drag it
throw.
on. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, that was a good point. I think it's good for people to know too. And by the way, I just approved an Eagle Scout project for a new kiosk and washing station for the boat.
Right. For the boat washing. We're looking forward to it.
Brendan O'Neill has his Eagle project. It's got to get approved by Boy Scouts now, but that'll be his Eagle project.
All right. Any other select board reports?
Well, I didn't do anything with the goals since we last spoke. I saw that on here, but I didn't propose it on here. But I should send it around to us one more time, and we'll just put it on the website. We've been progressing on a number of things, as you know. So
perfect.
I don't have any update though.
How about town administrator reports?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Eric.
No. You don't want to talk about space needs?
No. The new frontier, space.
Exactly. All right. Without further ado, we will close the open session, go to executive session, and per council advice, we may go back into open session, but it's only to close the meeting. There will be no further discussion or dialogue on any subject matter after our executive session. So I move that we go to executive session as chair. I deem it as warranted to discuss strategy with respect to threatened potential litigation as the chair so declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the select board and town, and the chair does so declare, as I said, to discuss the town library pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Sections 21A, 3, and 7, and Suffolk Construction versus DCAM 449, Mass 444, 2007. All right, so if we can
second, you've deemed it you deemed it necessary.
I deemed it 3 times. So just to confirm, okay, roll call vote. George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.